crook. Original head. Doing it like this. Yeah.
Moe Factz with Adam Curry for March 16th, 2022. This is episode number 78. Ready to go to school? I know I am. I'm Adam Curry coming to you from the heart of the Texas Hill Country. Time once again to spin the wheel of topics from here to Northern Virginia. Please say hello to my friend on the other end, Mr. Moe Factz.
How you doing, Adam?
Hey, Mo. It's always a pleasure, my brother. We don't talk enough. We don't talk enough.
I know.
It's just not enough, you know? It's like every two, I mean, we text and stuff, but every 2 weeks, it just doesn't feel like enough. How about you?
It's always looking forward to, and maybe we might have to increase the frequency. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I mean, man, the world has kind of gone crazy right now. I mean, it's just everything is looking kind of weird. I'm not quite sure where to, what to pay attention to these days.
Honestly, I try to pay attention to as little as possible. Well, I'll say this. Yeah. As many rabbit holes as possible. So If I go down one, I'll just go down that one, because if you try to consume it all, it's very, very, very troublesome.
Yeah, I get kind of filled up from time to time. It's like, you know what? I'm so happy I'm going to talk with Mo. I'm going to sit back, relax, and let me spin this wheel for a second, Mo. We'll get right to it. Got to find out what's happening. Round and round it goes. The wheel of topics. Where it stops, nobody knows. Of course, Moe Factz knows. The topic for episode number 78, Moe Factz with Adam Curry, is...
an open society.
Well, the first thing that comes up in my mind is George Soros. That's the first thing when I think of open society.
And that's exactly where we're going.
Okay, there it is.
So we want to talk about George Soros. While we can't talk about him, what he's trying to do, and exactly what you talked about what's going on in the world today, how he and people that think like him, we got to make it clear that he's not the only one, not the boogeyman. But it's people that think like him that want to restructure society. So,
yeah, I would agree. And certainly now in that part of the world where crap's going down, it's all in that general area where some of these people are from.
And that's what we had to look at, because what we see now and why he is, you say you can't talk about him because his past experience and his with a group he's a part of, we're seeing something eerily similar going on right now. So I guess we need to do some background on old George.
Good. Yes, let's do some of that.
This is Mehdi Hassan and Emily Tamkin, and they're talking about the right-wing boogeyman.
Rising crime rates, migrant caravans, sex trafficking rings, critical race theory, gun control, Antifa. According to the right, these are existential threats to the American way of life. And according to many on the right, they're all the fault of one man.
George Soros decided to purchase Diego.
How much do you think George Soros is involved here in Texas?
George Soros funded their opponents to take out Democrats who were prosecuted.
Soros money went towards the defund the police movement.
Affiliates who are getting money from the Soros-occupied State Department.
George Soros, is he aware that his money is being used to destroy America?
I wouldn't just say America, I would say the West. Western civilization is his target.
That's right. You've probably heard the name George Soros before. He's the Hungarian-born American Jewish billionaire who's been the focus of so many far-right conspiracy theories in recent years. Theories that often sound like they're ripped from the Protocols of the Elders of Zion or Mein Kampf.
I've studied so much George Soros, and it's kind of taken on mythical proportions because there's many people like him who make money the way he does, but what's specific about him is all these smaller little, he did this grandiose things to get the money coming in, but it's all this little stuff spread around that you don't really know about until it's too late. That's where he's spending it all.
His money's everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's institutional.
Yeah, that's a good point. Institutional is a good way to look at it.
And he looks the part. when you actually look at him, he looks like
he does have that evil character look to him, doesn't he?
Right, that he needs to have like a cat on his lap, like stroking it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, I'm going to take over the world by Tuesday. That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's why he fits the part. But we have to be clear that he represents a way of thinking. This open way of thinking, let's just change everything on a dime. And it's very jarring, and it's starting to pull society at its seams that you have these two totally polar opposite ways of thinking, and people are siding up, which that becomes binary, and that leads to conflict.
It does, yeah.
Out of the conflict and chaos, they build anew.
Well,
so
that's
the mindset.
Out of chaos, order, right? That's
correct.
That's the elite's slogan.
If you can say there are an elite, so
okay.
So what we're going to do is also today is look and see the defense mechanisms used by people like Soros and his ilk. What it's rooted in, because you heard one of the things mentioned in it before clip. Is the Elders of Zion.
Yep.
And so we have Senator Franken here, and this is an older clip. He's talking to Jake Tapper, and they're talking about the German whistles.
This new 2-minute ad that the Trump campaign is going to be airing, it blasts the Washington and global establishment. It uses images of Obama and Clinton, but some columnists have noted that there are 3 other individuals in the ad: George Soros, Janet Yellen, Lloyd Blankfein, the financier, the Fed chair, and the chair of Goldman Sachs. And people have pointed out all 3 of them happen to be Jewish. What was your take when you saw the ad?
Well, when I saw the ad, I thought that this was something of a German Shepherd whistle, a dog whistle, to sort of a certain group in the United States. I think I'm Jewish, so maybe I'm sensitive to it, but it clearly has sort of Elders of Zion kind of feel to it, international banking crisis plot or conspiracy rather, and then a number of Jews. So I think that it does speak to a certain part of his alt-right base. The Bannon, who's head of Breitbart, is his chairman. They traffic in that. Trump has retweeted a lot of that sort of thing, and I think that it's an appeal to some of the worst elements in our country as a closing argument. And I think that people who aren't sensitive to that or don't know that history may not see that in that, but that's what I immediately saw.
And what's always weird to me is that, because of course I've been, and I encourage people calling me a conspiracy therapist, but conspiracy theorist. But most of the stuff the stories that are out there, certainly when it comes to banks and who runs what and who owns what and what they plan to do, they're just publicly saying it. It's not like a secret. It's just not really reported anywhere.
But that's the Jedi mind trick right there, is the fact that if you say there's this huge cabal of people, no matter what their ethnicity is, because I think when you walk into the room of they, it's a vast mixture of all types, of people, but they're all lizard heart. We know that for sure.
Reptilian to the core, brain, everybody.
At the brain instead of heart. But yeah, they think with this set framework of either fight or flight. Right. That's their mindset, and we have to remember that this is their basis. Like, okay, the world's coming to an end. We can't leave Earth, not as of yet. Right. So now we have to fight, and the way they fight is through working their way into institutions and bringing about change. So this Elders of Zion, have you? I'm sure you've heard of it.
Oh, yes, Mo. Oh, yes. I have most definitely heard of the Elders of Zion. You betcha. Yeah.
Well, I just want to make sure you have. So what we're going to do is do a little background on it.
Good.
Because it's very important to see what that is and how it's being used today, and maybe some similarities to what's going on now.
Well, let's just say right now, the former senator from Minnesota, I think that was Al Franken, was very clear that this is just a crazy conspiracy theory. Elders of Zion. He that's the way he said it. He really made quite clear this Elders of Zion stuff.
And so let's remember that when you say crazy conspiracy theory, because is he talking about the content of the book or the book itself? Because that's we have to separate the two.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
So I guess we can go and get to number 4, and then this is Al Jazeera, I believe, and see how they explain the protocols.
The Protocols of the Elders of Zion is the most notorious example of anti-Semitic propaganda in modern history. The Protocols is a conspiracy theory that has been discredited repeatedly, but continues to circulate in the garb of truth. Since the first Arabic edition appeared in 1920, the Protocols and other myths of Jewish conspiracy have spread widely in the Arab world. Conspiracy theories may be appealing, but they do a lot of damage, not only to Jews, but also to those trying to deal with the real sources of the problems. So, what is the Protocols of the Elders of Zion? The Protocols purports to document a 200-year-old Jewish plot to rule the world. 24 segments, called Protocols, contain fictitious plans of a non-existent group of Jewish leaders called the Elders of Zion to corrupt the morals of the world, take control of international markets and the global press, and eventually destroy civilization. So, who wrote the Protocols? No one knows exactly who wrote the work, but it first appeared in Russia as a series of newspaper articles in 1903 and was soon after published as a book. Jews were a vulnerable minority in Russia and had long been a target of hatred and violence. So, it was easy to point an accusatory finger at them without consequence. The Protocols was proven to be fake almost as soon as it was published. A Russian government investigation at the time showed that it was fabricated by the Russian secret police operating in France. Even Tsar Nicholas II, who hated the Jews, recognized that the Protocols was a lie and ordered copies to be confiscated.
Okay.
So, I mean, is that what you... Because I want to...
Well, for me, I mean, I've read through the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, so I haven't so much looked at the authenticity of it. Just the words itself is what I spend most of my time on.
But the reason why I asked is, have you ever heard of it being not a conspiracy theory, but it seemed like it was strategic propaganda.
Well, it would be positioned as fake, as not true, as a hoax story. And there's never really any mainstream dive into the actual words itself. I mean, but in general, if you say Protocols of Elders of Zion, right away, bam, anti-Semite, what's wrong with you?
I'll give you an example of how I see how this worked. Just think about the Trump P tape.
Yeah.
The fact that or the dossier.
Yes, yes.
That was a real thing. That was full of fake news.
Yeah.
It was a real piece of propaganda. I mean, the actual...
Yes.
The creation of it was real. Now, what was in it has never been proven. I look at this as an old school form of that.
Could be.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm just saying because we can't prove or disprove. Now,
No.
we all people think that there's a group of people that want to control the world. And this is why I had to do the third rail first, because we had to work our way through the minutia to get to this point. Because this is Soros' magic cape. The reason why we had to discuss this is his magic cape to say, I can surround myself with anything talking about globalism is rebranded as anti-Semitism. And that's not an equal 1-to-1.
Oh, no, totally not.
Because this thing, we say, oh, China's trying to take over the world. Look what they did with Saudi Arabia with the oil, right? nobody bats an eye. Like, okay.
Right.
But when you say it's a globalist cabal, that translates into the way people hear it as it's a Jewish conspiracy.
Right.
And this is how he's been able to hide, or this is why people are even scared to broach the conversation about him and what he's doing.
Yeah,
and
because
like
people don't want to be labeled a conspiracy theorist or an anti-Semite. It's powerful both ways.
That's what I'm saying.
As a dossier and as an anti-dossier. I mean, in fact, it's just as polarizing as the Russia dossier. I guess you're right. Only that was one person and Russia, and this is Jews, which is probably a bigger group. Yeah, that too. Yeah, interesting. Good point.
So I just want to make sure how we look at this. We're looking at it as, one, it could be fake but still be effective.
Yeah.
Because look how just a little foreshadowing here. Look how that dossier set the tone for the anti-Russian hate we're seeing right now.
Which is crazy. It's crazy.
But we've done it for 5 years now? That it's the Russians. It was never...
Well, yes, Mo, but it's interesting because it's become faceless. All right? There's only one face. It's Putin. And there's no other face. There's no Russian people. I mean, even I'm amazed when I look at a YouTube video of a Russian couple showing a Russian supermarket, kind of like a Kmart, or a Walmart type deal. And it's so normal. And the gas stations look normal. And it's not, we have so little context about those people's lives. I don't think anyone really hates Russian people. It's just the Russians, which is even worse.
But the Jews, which is the same. It's the same.
Yeah, I'm with you, brother. I'm with you.
So what I'm saying is, as I always try to do, look back at history, see how it was shaped, and we say when history repeats itself. I think we're seeing the same thing now. We had this huge propaganda run, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not pro Putin at all. And it's sad that I even have to say that because it's the same thing.
They're all liars. They're all liars, all of them.
And I still won't smoke with Russia for what they did to Apollo Creed. So, I mean...
Apollo Creed? I understand. No. Now you've got a valid point, Mo. Yes, I'm with you on that. Yeah.
That's still a sensitive subject with us.
Okay.
But no, so what we have to do, this is why I'm digging into this one piece of propaganda, because you've heard it used twice in the first two clips. And it's the go-to. Every time you say anything about globalism, it's a straight jump to Elder Zion. Just like anytime you say anything about Russia, it's a straight jump to Putin. It's like in reverse, though. Instead of it goes from the group to the person, now it's going from the person to the group.
Totally agree.
Now we got that laid out, and we kind of see where we're going. I guess we can go into number 5.
Over the decades, numerous governments, scholars, and religious leaders have verified the protocols were a work of fiction. Nevertheless, the protocols and the myth of Jewish world control never disappeared. Jews have been blamed for capitalism and its ideological opposite, communism. They've been called zealous nationalists who reject the international community, and also devious globalists trying to dismantle nation-states. The truth is, the protocols made it easy to point a finger at Jews for all kinds of political movements. So, why does belief in this absurd fiction persist? The protocols mention no sources, dates, or names to prove their inauthenticity, so they are easily deployed to many contexts. Those who show the protocols to be fabricated are simply dismissed as part of the conspiracy. Today, people blame Jews for all kinds of social ills, but Jews aren't behind the failure of Arab governments or their economic crises, any more than Jews are the source of pandemics, droughts, and natural disasters. Promoting a conspiracy of Jewish world domination diverts attention from the real sources of national troubles, ensuring that they will never be solved. To invert truth to blame the Jews for 9/11 or the rise of ISIS simply allows extremism to fester without addressing its source. Pointing a finger at Israel or Jewish medical researchers for the spread of AIDS or the coronavirus is not only a malicious lie, but it distracts the public from developing effective solutions. All people committed to truth and justice should help debunk false conspiracy theories. Then, maybe, we can work together to address the true sources of the world's enduring challenges.
Oh, man, I hadn't heard that the Jews were responsible for COVID. That was a new one.
Oh, yeah.
I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah.
The problem, the problem that I run up against, although not recently, is whenever you talk about the financial system, and I say specifically financial system because saying banking it's that crazy, it's that polarizing. If you say banking, it's Jews. No, the financial system, the central banks. But even saying that is sometimes often immediately taken to, okay, right. You know what I mean?
That's the mental leap I'm talking about.
Yep.
How everything has been associated with certain groups.
Yeah.
And that's, like I said, the same thing just to go back with Russia. Every time anything pointed to Russia for the last 6 years, because Biden's been in there for 1 year and then Trump campaigned for a year before he served in office, anything that smelled of Russia, you even had people whose job was it to meet with Russians. If they actually met with them, it's they're puppets of Putin.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean,
so
I don't know if you have the clip. Did you see the View?
No, I didn't.
Well, I don't have the clip yet because it'll be for tomorrow. But they were saying, who was it? Tucker Carlson and Tulsi Gabbard. They should be investigated for their ties to Russia. And then Whoopi literally said, they used to arrest people for this.
Yeah,
I mean, holy crap! Yeah, that was the Red Scare. That was we were picking up communists like crazy people. It's kind of seen as a dark cloud in our history, and they're openly calling for it.
But even McCarthy, depends on which way you look at it. Some people say he was doing the right thing and a good job, and then other people were saying, because communism was running wild.
Right. But I guess the main un-American thing is maintaining lists. You don't maintain a list, which in itself can be anti-Semitic Schindler's List. I'm just saying, in America, we don't make lists. So when we started to get no-fly lists and terrorist watch lists, it was really polarizing because of the fact that it was a list. And it's like, hey, we don't do lists because before you know it, we have a lot of lists. And here we are. Now we got a Russia list.
Yes.
It's sad.
And we... it's this is why I wanted to do this show, and the way I did it was we're slowly becoming the thing that we claim we despise.
Yes,
and it's the I don't know if it's the fog of war that people can't see it.
Yes,
and they don't hear themselves.
Wait, we're still in COVID, brother. We're still in mass formation, as far as I'm concerned.
And they're bringing that back.
Well, I mean, and it went from masks and social distancing and now vaccines, and now all the cause of our troubles, your $5, $6, $7 a gallon gas being propagated by the leaders of the world, falsely saying, that's because of Putin. So they're abusing this for all kinds of stuff, including political here in the United States, because Donald Trump is clearly a Russian agent, so this is what you get. You can't have him in 2024. It's disgusting.
And that's why I started the show off when you asked me about everything that's going on. If you're going to pay attention to something, pay attention to one thing at a time. Because this constant wish-wash back and forth, COVID, Russia, gas, inflation, it leaves you in a state of defeat, which is the whole purpose.
Yes, exactly. Now, I'm good, because I make the most study of the financial stuff and the environmental social governance, because I'm really following it. I can see why this is happening, and it's a different story, and so that's what I do. That's what I do for a living. But even I'm a little weary, of just all the barrage of messages, which I have to watch. That's my job.
And
Thank God for the holy herb, brother.
And that's what Yuri talked about, right? Exactly right. And that's what Yuri's talked about. Business. I can't never get his last name right. Business off, I believe how you pronounce it, but
who is this?
The Russian
yes, Yuri, the
former KGB.
Yuri, I forget his last.
Biznov or something like that.
I'll look it up. Yeah.
But that's what he was talking about. One, they ratchet up one thing while they release the pressure off another thing. So
and he said, and we start by corrupting everybody in school.
Correct.
Yeah, Yuri Bezmenov.
Bezmenov. I can't even say
Bezmenov. There we go.
Bezmenov. Thank you. A lot of real estate on his face.
Yes, indeed.
But that's the whole thing, is that I just want to point to people just to prepare them. COVID is on the rise. They're about to crank that back up, so they'll dial back Putin. And with COVID, it's now, you saw Obama had it, right? So, it, and it's pushing. I caught it, but thanks to the vaccine,
I live. Thanks to the vaccine, I live. That's it.
You're right.
That's all you
already
gotta say.
pushing. They're saying the fourth shot. We need the fourth shot.
Yep.
So I'm just letting people be aware of. Just be careful how you consume news, because it can be very defeating. So in that vein, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion seems to be a fictitious. Okay, let me explain how I want to say this. The way it was created, or it's a manufactured document. Let me say it like that. Another manufactured document was the Willie Lynch letter that we discussed before on a previous show.
Oh my goodness! Yes. I remember this.
So what I want to do is, this is Almas J. Sammy, and this is from 2008. This is way after Farrakhan, another person name we can't mention because of the polarizing.
Believe me, we're getting lots of emails for this episode. Trust me.
I could feel them. I could hear the keys typing already. But,
yeah, of course.
So he's gonna get into the Willie Lynch letter, if it's real or not, and the fact that it may not be real. What's still the impact?
You see, the thing that separates us from every other group of slaves was the fact that they knew that slavery was not the beginning and the end of their existence as human beings. We, on the other hand, believe that slavery is the beginning of African or black history. That is what happens when you allow someone else to write your history. When the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs on the Japanese, ending World War II, Japan was devastated. The Japanese government, as a part of the surrender, agreed to give America the run of the whole country. The United States controlled the economy, and General Douglas MacArthur wanted to control the educational system. He wanted to ban the teaching of Japanese history, and that is where the Japanese leadership drew the line. They would never dream of letting someone else control what was taught to their children. They knew that if they gave up the mind of their children, then there would be little hope of ever getting back on their feet. Without history, future generations would be forced to grope around in the darkness, lost, afraid, and timid. Unfortunately, this is the status that we were reduced to during our time on the plantation. We became lost, afraid, and timid. There was a pamphlet floating around a few years ago called the Willie Lynch Papers that was said to be the plan that was distributed throughout the South. Supposedly, Willie Lynch was a slaver who had a great success at getting work out of Africans who were enslaved on his plantation. They feared him and therefore worked his plantation with little effort on his part. It has also been stated that there never really was a man named Willie Lynch in the first place, and his legacy is a myth. Regardless, I believe it is necessary for us to study the Willie Lynch Papers in order to understand our own fears and misunderstanding today. It is instructional for us. Firstly, Willie Lynch was primarily concerned with profit. It wasn't personal in the sense that they had something out for Africa. No, they simply wanted to make a buck and then use that money to monopolize or control the world, to seize power over the whole world. It was about the Benjamins from the get-go.
And there it is, my whole thesis. Follow the money.
It's always about the money. It's never personal, and that's what people have to understand. At least if you look at it through that light, you can at least put some logic behind it. And it's okay, if it's logic behind it, then you can figure out how you can manipulate the effect on you. If you feel hopeless, then there's no hope. I'm saying there's no
hope
resolution for that. there's no hope.
The hope is gone. It's it. Done.
And so, yeah, it's all about the Benjamins. And that's what we had to realize. But I just want to play that and compare it to the Protocols, because even though that document was forged or created or manufactured, it still had some truth in it and some power into it, because a lot of people consume that and like, well, it's just Willie Lynch. You would hear that people say that, oh, well, that's just Willie Lynch.
Right.
Black on black crime. Oh, that's just Willie Lynch. This and yeah. So it's the point I'm trying to make is that I understand why people are so sensitive when they hear the Zion's, the Elders of Zion, that kind of thing, because it's like, oh, they understand their history. So they're like, no, we're not going down that road ever again. So they come out and attack it. And like I said, I think people like Soros and the people that shape his media narrative know that's a good hiding place for him.
It works. It's of course. It's a dynamite. The hiding place is a good descriptor.
Yeah. So he can always slide back into there. So I wanted to get into a little bit more of the protocol, but from the perspective of what is it called? Yad Vashem. And what this is this contains the world's largest repository of information on the Holocaust. It's the excuse me. It is the leader in Holocaust education, research and documentation. So this is a good source from the Jewish side for their understanding, because the other side was from Al Jazeera, which I found kind of weird.
It was interesting because I was like, okay, what kind of, they'll probably be all in on it, and they weren't, which was interesting to hear from Al Jazeera.
Which I found interesting as well, that even to say that, say Tibetan monks had, just say we blame Tibetan monks for what happened in the Middle East, you'd be like, yeah, that was definitely outside forces that destabilized the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
But to say that you can't blame anybody for it, that was kind of weird, a weird position for Al Jazeera to take. So I just want to point that out. But here is from the Jewish point of view, how they view the protocols.
A major legacy of the late 19th century Russian anti-Semitism was the fabricated text known as the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. The work originated in circles of the Russian secret police, based on materials borrowed from earlier conspiratorial anti-Jewish writings and theories. Originally published in the early 20th century under the title Antichrist, the Protocols disseminated, eventually becoming one of the most widely distributed anti-Semitic publications of modern times. The conspiratorial content presented in the publication serves to explain its attractiveness to anti-Semitic ideologues, parties, and movements.
So the Tsarist secret police put together this document that basically chronicled the alleged meetings that took place over time in Prague at the site of the Jewish cemetery by Jewish elders who came together to discuss ways in which they could rule the world, in which Jews could rule the world. So every single movement in history, every single event in history can be that way attributed to the Jews. The Jews have a scheme, have a ploy to rule over the world. And they, so that the French Revolution, according to these protocols, was orchestrated by the Jews. Socialism, invented by the Jews. Capitalism, every single event.
Wow, I'm learning so much about our friends.
They get blamed for everything. I mean, I get it.
I was thinking about this. As I'm listening to that, I'm thinking, often when people want to call out an individual, they'll use whatever generalization they can.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like
stereotype.
Stereotype, of course. You can come up with all kinds of stereotypes about me if you want to single me out for something. And it happens with blacks, with browns, with Mexicans, and there's all kinds of stereotypes. But this one in particular is always like, oh, stop. And the other one's kind of, there's even stereotypes about podcasters now. You know what I mean? It's like, and to single one person out, they'll say, oh, all podcasters are this and therefore.
Well, that's how they try to identify us as horse paste eating.
Exactly. Yes.
Tinfoil hat wearing people.
That's right.
By creating an archetype of one podcaster and demonizing him, and the same thing with Putin.
Yeah.
Taking one Russian, taking one leader, and saying across all people.
Yes.
So what I'm just saying is we have to look at the past and see how this information was manufactured in Russia by the Tsar's police and disseminated across the world. This is like the OG meme.
Yes, it is.
So it just keeps on going, and you got to think that was like 1920 or even earlier. We're talking about 100 years now,
mm-hmm.
and this thing is still manipulating people one way or the other, either to be hypersensitive to certain things,
yes,
or to
it's
blame
a good one.
a group of people for everything.
It's a good one, and they wrote a cool book to go with it. I mean, the Steele dossier will be with us for centuries as well, I'm sure.
I think people really need to really realize, take a step back and see how you've been conditioned to hate people that you don't even know halfway around the world.
Thank you so much for bringing this up, Mo. This is the most troubling thing for me, and I approach it from a different angle. Mm-hmm. I say, you don't. In fact, I say you're really big on this war in Ukraine, and oh my God, it's so horrible. You're actually racist, and I say that to mess with people's heads. And I said, because you don't care about brown children, and I can name a couple countries. Somalia, Yemen, Mali, I can go on forever. Palestine, not even a country, but Palestine. And then I would say right after that, but of course you're not a racist, is because you haven't been programmed. That's not who you're supposed to care about today. Today you're supposed to care about these children. And if you don't recognize that, then you're just going to be thrown around like a rag doll nonstop. So it's the inverse of what you just said. It's like we are now, so we're being taught on one hand to have incredible empathy and sympathy. The word you must use with Putin is evil. That is the term. It can be nothing else, evil. And by extension, F Russia. No one really, I mean, I was hearing the new media show. It's just a podcast show. Todd from Blueberry is one of the hosts. And he said, and this is the fallout that is amazing to me. So, we have a lot of Russian clients who use our podcast hosting services, and now they literally can't pay. And he's going, well, that, it really sucks for them. And, we're trying to work things out and figure it out with them, not realizing that the cheerleading is bringing on that very problem. Does that make sense?
What do you mean by cheerleading?
The cheerleading for Putin bad, and let's cut him off and let's chop him. I'm waiting for Elon Musk any day now to turn off all Teslas in Russia, which he can do.
It's funny you bring him up, because we're going. I'm gonna remind me about Elon. Okay,
no problem.
We're going to talk about him in a minute.
Okay.
And so in that mindset. Here's the real mind screw, because the reason why I'm linking the Russians to the Jewish population and George Soros is a lot of the Russian oligarchs are of Jewish descent.
Yes.
So,
but
is it okay to hate them?
No. Be quiet, you.
No, what I'm saying, so when we say who we're sanctioning, is the United States government participating in anti-Semitism by targeting a certain set of group of people?
I think you could make an argument, but of course you'll lose that because it's only the rich ones.
But still, that's who, when everybody talks about bankers, I don't think there's many broke bankers.
I hear you, brother. I hear you. I see the hypocrisy. Of course I do.
But it's lost on people.
Yeah.
And when we used to use the word Russians up in the Trump era, it was no Russian oligarchs. It was not Russian military. It was not Russian. It was the Russians.
The Russians, yeah.
And the reason why I'm sensitive to this is the era I grew up in. I grew up in the Top Gun, Rocky IV. I was propagandized.
Ah, yes.
Oh, Red Dawn. I forgot Red Dawn as well. Red Dawn was a real... Like, what are we going to do if the Russians come?
The hunt for Red October. And do you remember Frankie Goes to Hollywood when two tribes go to war?
No, I don't remember that one.
It was Reagan, and the video was great. And this is a little bit before your time, but that was when I was growing up. It was one of the most spectacular videos of the time because it was 83 or something. It was really early on, and it was Reagan and Gorbachev in a boxing ring, fighting it out, beating each other up. And meanwhile, it's like just all this air raid sirens. And it was a number one hit in probably not the U.S., maybe the clubs. But I grew up with that. And my parents grew up with the Cold War Cuba crisis programming, which they passed on to me, too.
They kept refreshing that hate.
It's a refresh. Yes.
And I'm telling you, that's why I remember being glad. I mean, first of all, you thought that Russians were cheaters. That was what was put in the movies. They never played fair. They never did the right way.
Yeah, they always wear
like Rocky IV.
They always wear leather
steroids.
They always wear leather jackets.
Yeah, and then you had it's just all these different things that.
Do you remember Boris and Natasha from
what was that?
Or from Rocky and Bullwinkle?
Oh yeah. Okay,
another one, another programming moment.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, the people my age. This is why. I mean, because I'm 41, just to let everybody know. So everybody in my age.
Doesn't he look handsome? Doesn't he look handsome for 41, ladies and gentlemen? What a looker! Yeah.
So yeah, this is what they're going through. When they hear Russian, they hear Rocky IV, Drag Off, Top Gun, and the list goes on.
Hunt for Red October. Yeah.
No, Red Dawn.
Oh, Red Dawn. Yes.
If you don't remember that, that's when they came across the Mexican border and took over America, or trying to take over America. So I'm just saying all this to say this is how powerful the propaganda is.
Even most recent on Apple TV Plus, we have the rewriting of the space race. I don't know if you've seen this. I forget what it's called. It's a series about going to space, but they rewrote it where the Russians landed on the moon first, and so as season 2. And this started a couple months ago. I was like, I was excited. Like, okay, it's kind of weird, but I'll watch. I mean, I like season 1. And right away, they're on the moon shooting the Russians. And I'm like, I can't watch this.
And movies do this because it was when the Russians went out and we was going through the age of terrorism. Everybody was bad. That was Middle Eastern.
Yeah,
all the bad guys were Middle Eastern. That was the threat. So, So I guess now we can go ahead and get into number 8, Elders 2.
The Protocols of the Elders of Zion spread, even though they were revealed as a forgery at an early stage. The first non-Russian edition was printed in Germany in 1920, followed by further translations into other languages in Poland, France, and England. It also reached the United States during that same year, where the automaker and leading industrialist Henry Ford published an Americanized version of the text under the title The International Jew. As can be expected, the text also gained prominence among members of the Nazi Party. Leading Nazi figures incorporated it in their ideology as early as the 1920s, as can clearly be seen in Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf. Between their rise to power in 1933 and the beginning of the Second World War, the Nazis published at least 23 editions of the Protocols, which were widely distributed.
Yeah, another thing I've read, Henry Ford's The International Jew. I learned this a long time ago that he had some interesting publications in this regard.
Can I ask one question? Why didn't he get the cancel canon? I find that, was Ford just too big to fail? Too big to cancel?
I think it was, maybe he was too big to cancel. And maybe a lot of people agreed with him back then.
No, I'm talking about even, nobody calls for
Ford. You mean
Ford
even now,
change.
like a Ford F-150?
Right.
Yeah, I mean...
We need to get it, if we're being equal...
It is a cancelable moment. I agree with you. I mean, all things being equal, yes.
Do we need to get the cancel canon out for Henry Ford? Because if you can get the Washington Monument, I don't see the F-150 being untouchable.
This is a very good point, Mo.
And this is what I want to ask you while you grab the cancel
hold on.
cannon.
You want to spray the cannon right now?
Please, let's go ahead and get him.
Goodbye, F-150.
Is Ford Foundation linked to Henry Ford? I don't know.
Yes,
yes. I know
yes. The answer is yes.
So is this his atonement for? Is this the Ford atonement for his transgressions? I don't have the answer to this question. I'm asking
right.
You, I know you.
But I'll say the way you win in America is not through belonging to a group or anything or being voted to office. The way you win in America is having the most money. And when you have money, you have power. And when you have power, people shut up.
We just said that about it starts with the Benjamin. So I think everybody gets to that point and understand that, like you said, it leads to the money. Everything leads to the money, and that's how they manipulate these people.
Dude,
so
I mean, just as a quick aside, we've talked about the Federal Reserve. to this day, we do not actually know publicly which banks or families own the Federal Reserve. We don't know this.
Does, Adam. The government owns it. No, I'm just saying.
Yeah, and they own
That's
FedEx.
What people think.
Yeah,
right.
And I learned the other day the Federal Deposit Insurance (FDIC) is just like the Federal Reserve. It's not even a part of the government.
I did not know that.
I didn't know it either. Well, it's the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, so that would have given us a clue. Now that I think about it, of course, we only know it by the acronym FDIC. Now, the president or the chair is appointed, I think, also for FDIC by Congress, by the Senate, as approved by Senate. But the organization functions the same way. I mean, it's fuzzy. It's really fuzzy. It's fuzzy shit.
And that's where they hide in the fuzz. They hide in the,
hiding in the fuzz. Nice. I like that one.
So now we can talk Musk. Is Musk the new Henry Ford? Because you see what they tried to do with him. They're trying to link him in with alt-right, with the Hitler meme, these kind of things. Are they trying to position him as the new Henry Ford?
Interesting.
It's funny that you said that he would pull the plugs in Tesla, but I agree, but I think for a different reason. Well, to not let this stick to him.
It's interesting you bring this up with Henry Ford. The comparison is perhaps better than my previous one, which is P.T. Barnum, or, as I often say, the Kim Kardashian of tech. I think Elon Musk is a true fan. I've met him. I've hung out around him. I see the people around him. I just don't think he's brilliantly smart. I think he's perfect for the role that he plays. It's like he didn't invent Tesla. Tesla was purchased, and then he ran it. And we don't even know exactly what he runs. But he's perfect for, and he gets away with all kinds of crazy shit, certainly when it comes to the SEC and how he says stuff that actually move markets massively, certainly his own stock. So to say he's the Henry Ford is an interesting one because it does follow the formula according to how much money he has. But he has handlers. He definitely has handlers because I know them and I've seen them.
And I'm pretty sure Ford had handlers as well.
I will agree with that, yes.
So I guess now we can get into basically the international Jew and Henry Ford's assembly line of anti-Semitism.
Henry Ford was one of the heroes of his time. He had brought the automobile down in price. It was now affordable. It had the impact, really. A later generation would know the internet or the computer. He was like Mr. Gates in terms of how Americans viewed him. So when Henry Ford, the great hero, becomes persuaded that the Jew is the world's foremost problem, that was indeed an issue that had an enormous impact on Jewish life. Moreover, every Ford dealer would distribute Henry Ford's newspaper, known as the Dearborn Independent.
Right.
And for 91 straight issues, the Dearborn Independent targeted Jews, the world's foremost problem, as he said. And then Henry Ford repackaged those articles into a series of volumes entitled The International Jew. These books were sent free to every library in America and were very widely distributed.
Well, now all of a sudden this clip makes me reevaluate. I like the Bill Gates comparison a lot. Now, of course, there's no note of anti-Semitism there per se, but to say that Microsoft Windows was the Ford is the Ford of the computer era of a new age. Yeah, I like that comparison. And Gates is evil just in different ways.
And he's a figure that when you say something about him, it polarizes people in the same way.
Yeah.
But the reason why I'm saying what Henry Ford is and Elon Musk, if Elon Musk can get that price of a Tesla down to where it's affordable, he could easily beat Henry Ford. But I'm making the bigger point that one, Elon Musk has put himself in a weird position as far as some of the takes that he makes, that he's known for.
Yeah.
Even to the point where what's the guy's name? It just slipped my mind. The fast talker, conservative.
Ben Shapiro.
Thank you. I had it right on the tip of my tongue. Yes. He even had to come out and kind of
what exactly did Elon do that got him into
He posted a Hitler meme. And that's all I had to say. I don't even have to tell you the context, anything. Anytime you're posting a Hitler meme that's not pointed towards conservatives, it just don't do it. You know, if you call conservatives Nazis, that's fine. But if you call anybody else Nazis, that's a problem. We saw this with even Michael Eric Dyson when he said that Clarence Thomas was like the Jews that helped.
Wait a minute. So he posted a picture of Hitler with the caption, "Stop comparing me to Justin Trudeau."
Yes.
I'm sorry. Oh, he says,
now you see.
But no, here's the problem. That part was funny, but the second part is, I had a budget. That's kind of sick.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he had the cancel cannon was aimed at him.
Yeah.
And I'm just equating the two, that somehow Ford escaped and somehow Elon's escaped. So I don't want to go down the comparison path too much, but that would once again pointing out.
Okay. Well, that would be okay. I believe that both Ford and Musk have U.S. government ties that are very tight. Musk certainly with the National Reconnaissance Office, maybe with Space Force, NASA, all of these spy outfits.
They got to be nice to Elon.
I think so, and Henry Ford, of course, had many government involvements, certainly in the war machine. So yeah, I mean that makes sense. Follow the money once again.
Because the Russians are talking about not giving us a ride home from the space. So
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Hey, man. Yeah, you can hike your own way back. We're not taking you. We're not dragging your ass home.
So let's go ahead and get to this second part about Henry Ford.
So never before in America had we seen anti-Semitism at a mass level. There had been earlier anti-Jewish pamphlets, but they were considered fringe elements. Suddenly anti-Semitism was being dispersed by one of the wealthiest, best known people in America, and he was legitimating anti-Semitism. If one reads the International Jew, one quickly learns all the things that Henry Ford was unhappy about. The city, modern music, new government programs, and whatever it was, he blamed on the Jews. No question that Henry Ford was influenced by the protocols of the Elders of Zion, what the great anti-Semitic forgery. But while the protocols are a boring book without real life in them, the International Jew, written by journalists with great skill, really captured the national imagination because they took all the things that people were concerned about and didn't like and blamed them all on Jews. And in many cases, Henry Ford would name a particular Jew whom he considered responsible.
You know, I just recalling some of the research, because it's been over a decade since I really looked at Henry Ford. Mm-hmm. Around the time of Operation Paperclip, when we brought a whole slew of Germans over, Nazis, including Werner von Braun, who of course famously ran the Apollo program. at that time, there was a true Nazi party in the U.S., and I think Ford was associated with them or certainly contributed campaign finance. So it would make sense that if he was in that group already, who in effect told the people the Jews are responsible for all your malaise and we need to get rid of them. I'm paraphrasing. I'm shortening up the whole issue.
Right.
For that time, that would see on the wrong side of history and not canceled, but you can see where that came from.
And that's the point I'm trying to make in the bigger scope of things, that this hate, or I wouldn't even say hate. Yeah, well, I say hate. It was accepted on the mainstream level. You would have marches, Nazi marches, at Madison Square Garden. I mean, you could pick up a copy of Ford's newspaper at every Ford dealership for 91 episodes. 91 issues. So, and then, like you said, he took the protocols and punched it up with great journalists. So, I'm sorry.
This was actually before that.
Yes.
Before he even had I think the Germans were delighted. Well, we know that there was a lot of American business. Hello, IBM. Hello. Browns. Yeah. Who were doing business with the Nazis. I mean, this is a dark page in our history, but we can't deny that it happened.
And now we have to look at it through the lens to say, when people hear Soros and it's equated to the protocols, then it's equated to Henry Ford, then it's equated to the normalization of hate.
Okay, I'm with you there. Now, I have issues with what he's doing with his money, but yeah, and I think a lot of people do, but the shield is always the anti-Semitism hate, whether it exists or not.
Correct, and that's what we have to work our way through to seek first to understand, then to be understood how what we're saying is received. And it's like, oh, Soros, brain fry out.
Right.
I can't hear anything else. You're
anti-Semitism. Right. Yeah. Okay. Right. Good. And are we going to figure this one out?
Yeah, so now we're going to go back.
Please, Mo, can we figure this one out for today? I'd like to know how to do it.
So now we got to not had to lay all of this out. So now we can go back and listen to Mehdi Hassan, and I forget her name. Where's her name at? Emily Tamkin. We have to listen to her conversation now through the lens of what we've just explored.
In just the past few weeks, Rudy Giuliani and Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton have blamed Soros-funded DAs for higher crime rates. And disgraced former General Mike Flynn said Soros caused COVID to control the world. He caused COVID. That's what he said. Soros has also been scapegoated by many strong-arm world leaders, from President Erdogan of Turkey to Prime Minister Orban of Hungary to, yes, Donald J. Trump here in the U.S. But the worst offender is not a dictator or a tinfoil hat-wearing blogger. It's the most watched primetime cable news host,
Tucker Carlson.
In a new Tucker Carlson Originals.
George Soros is a billionaire who has spent decades waging a kind of war.
Watch as Tucker exposes the less globalist ideals and the fight for civilization. Hungary versus Soros. Streaming now.
That lie-filled special is the culmination of years of Soros hate from Tucker Carlson, who blames the very rich Jewish man for fueling immigration and replacing real Americans. It's the kind of character assassination that led to a real assassination attempt on Soros in 2018 by Cesar Sayok, the MAGA bomber, who's now doing 20 years in prison. Why is Soros the focus of all these conspiracies? How did this all start?
All right, hold on a second. First, let's debunk that the mail bombs because they went to Pelosi and it was all bull crap. We pulled that apart right away. That was bull crap. But I don't know. I think I've watched that special. I'm not sure. I'll rewatch it. I don't think he at any point does he talk about Soros being a Jew.
But Mehdi identifies Soros as the Jewish man.
Yeah,
and
exactly. Exactly.
Why'd you throw that in? But once again, we have to look at it through the lens of what we heard Henry Ford would do. They said he would take one Jewish person, you know what I'm saying, and highlight them as like a representation of the problem. So I'm assuming that's what Mehdi is thought to be, or what that's being done on the other side now.
Okay, that's the comparison. Yeah, I can see it, and I see how this will never work. What Tucker Carlson is doing, I can see that.
No, it'll
never
the reason
work.
I'm bringing this up is the Soros thing is ineffective.
Yes, exactly.
It is when you're talking about amongst people that, get into the weeds and understand how the mechanisms work. But when you say just George Soros, it's like done.
Well, and
brain fried.
So in general, certainly in the United States, we have a very bad habit. And instead of calling out individuals who we can demonstrably show did things we don't like, certainly on a political level, we call out the government.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's ineffective. And that just makes no sense. The only thing, and he's legendary for this, George Soros did single-handedly break the Bank of England. And he's proud of it. And he did it in a legit way. I mean, he shorted the pound, and he made out like a bandit. And it was Gordon Brown who totally screwed up and advertised the gold prices, and he was a total idiot. And I was around when this happened. We covered it. That is true. But that was George Soros, the financier, not the Jew. But somehow, okay, I understand what you're saying. But all the other stuff,
it goes right back into
But I will never say, why, that's not true. So in Austin, we have a George Soros finance district attorney. I go after the district attorney, and because I know that it's ineffective. But the amount of people who only will say Soros did it, and we do it ourselves, the Soros sisters, because we're in the weeds, and that's our language, and we understand what we're talking about. But yes, ineffective completely, because exactly what you're pointing out.
And this is the only way you can get to the root of the problem is if you talk it out. But a lot of people just like to throw these blanket statements out there. Like, and this is something where I think we're pretty good at with Black Lives Matter. Early on, we distinguish Black Lives Matter from Black Lives Matter Inc.
Very effective, because when I do that, people go, oh, yeah.
Yeah, because if you just say Black Lives Matter, it's like, oh, you hate black people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how it's received. It's like, no. There's a structural, and that's why I use the term institutionalized. His money is institution. It's an institution, and it's a well-built structure. So if you want to talk about this, there's a way you could talk about it, and we're going to do this later in the show.
Of course, I expect no less.
Is identify the structure. So two things I'm trying to do here. One, point to people that's trying to educate people on what's going on. If you're going to do it, you can't do it in a passing tweet or text message or whatever. You have to sit down to a table like me and you do, have a conversation about it, or just don't broach the subject if you don't have the time to actually get into the weeds of it.
Yeah, we used to be a society where we wouldn't publicly argue about politics and religion. It was so much better back then.
I don't know.
We were repressed. We'd go home and say, that guy's a dick. That guy's a dick. Or we'd say, I don't like his politics, but I like him. There was a lot of that too.
Right. But I just think when we don't talk about it, it lets this kind of thing fester. So when you've had a society that has not been talking about things for generations, that's how I was also raised. Don't argue about politics and religion. And then when you get these networks, of which you have many, and the social network is the one I'm talking about, when everybody can start saying what they really think without publishing who they are, then the ugly came out. Yes.
Real ugly.
And then people are naturally extremists, so they go to one extreme or the other, where everybody's either
binary, as you say, binary. Binary.
Yeah, binary. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get into the second part. Part 3 of Mehdi's show.
Well, as journalist Emily Tamkin writes in her new book, The Influence of Soros, Politics, Power, and the Struggle for an Open Society, George Soros is a powerful man. After surviving the Holocaust, he pioneered hedge funds and became the world's most famous currency trader. In 1992, he made more than $1 billion in a month by betting against the British pound, a bet that broke the Bank of England. And Soros, now in his 90s, has spent billions of his own wealth to foster what he calls an open society, including in America. millions of dollars to Democratic candidates and progressive causes. Just last week, his Open Society foundations gave $150,000 each to more than a dozen black social justice activists to continue their civil rights work. As Tamkin writes, quote, Soros may not wield his influence to destroy nations and smuggle in caravans, but he has still done quite a lot.
And I'll add to that, I truly believe he does all this to make money. It's his system. That's how he did it in England, and this is how he's doing it to America. And it's his dream, and I think it may be stated, his dream would to be really bring America to its knees financially.
To open it up. They want an open
society. Yeah, well, yes, globalist. It's, again, not a conspiracy theory. He's really open about it.
But when you say open society and you say globalist, then y'all say globalist, say international Jew. Now I'm right back to you hating like Henry Ford.
Don't do that to me, Mo. That's not fair.
No, I'm just, I know it's not fair, but this is what these people do. And it's like, hold on. So it's like, but you have to operate on their terms. I mean, this is when they have the, like you said, it's about the money. And I'm not even gonna go into saying to the social credit score and these things. It's gonna
that's on the way. Yes, that's right. Coming.
But that, like you said, going back to the Willie Lynch clip, the speaker there was saying it's all about, even slavery was about the money. And when you take it in that sense, it's like, okay, now I can at least understand it. And once I understand, like I said, I can combat it. So let's go ahead and get into part 4.
Not just a lot, but enough for far-right figures to launch into outlandish narratives full of resentment and bile. George Soros did it is the conspiracy theory on the right. The idea that immigrants and criminals and Marxists are everywhere trying to tear it all down and controlled at all times by one man, by one very rich Jewish man. This is the basis for almost every white grievance that you see in American politics and abroad today. It's deluded, it's dangerous, but can it be stopped? Joining me now is Emily Tamkin. She's a senior editor at the New Statesman magazine and author of The Influence of Soros, Politics, Power, and the Struggle for an Open Society. Emily, thanks for coming on the show this evening. The Soros conspiracies are out of control right now, but they're not new and they're not fringe. Have a listen to then President of the United States, Donald Trump, in 2018, discussing the infamous migrant caravan heading for the U.S. southern border.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know who, but I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of people say yes.
How did we get to a point where world leaders are blaming one guy, one very rich guy, but one guy for all of society's problems and threats?
Well, yes, I would like to know. Is this guy a member of the Open Society Institute by any chance? This Mehdi Hassan? Mehdi, yeah.
I didn't find anything pointing them to the Open Society, but this,
because I know people who were in this organization, and I know what they did in the former Yugoslavia. I mean, they were in there too. The OSI, all over that. This has been a problem in Europe. It's been a problem everywhere. The Open Society, which, okay, if we can stop at internationalists, I'll just go to the globalist part. But yeah, this is what they're doing.
And we saw what happened in American cities in 2020. I mean, we can't act like we didn't see.
Oh yes, we can. Oh yes, we can. Because in America, when the media tells us it's a mostly peaceful protest, even if there's a building burning behind the guy saying it at the time, we actually will fire. We will believe this shit. I mean, that's on us.
And going to the media and how manipulative it is. Even Mehdi says, how can we blame one man for all this trouble? Mm-hmm. Now I fast forwarded to Jen Psaki, been asked the same question.
And so to that point, inflation goes up today. The president's statement blames the Putin price hike. Are you guys just going to start blaming Putin for everything until the midterms?
Well, we've seen the price of gas go up at least 75 cents since President Putin lined up troops on the border of Ukraine.
And last month, the statement didn't mention the Putin price hike. It mentioned inflation because of the pandemic. Why is that?
Well, Peter, last year, last 2 years, there was a global pandemic. Everyone who's global economists have all agreed that has been the biggest contributor to date of inflation because of the impact on the supply chain. Obviously, global events impact the economy, the global economy, as well as global inflation. And
stop.
Price.
Jen, you can't say global like that.
Good point. Don't say that, Jen.
Impact on the supply chain. Obviously, global events impact the economy, the global economy, as well as global inflation. And the
You're right. Ducey should just go back. Excuse me, when you say globalist, are you referring to internationalists like the anti-Semite Henry Ford?
Global events impact the economy, the global economy, as well as global inflation. And the price hikes as a result that have escalated over the course of time of President Putin's further invasion of the impact on the global oil markets are, of course, having an impact.
Yeah.
It messes with your head when you listen to the two clips side by side.
It does.
They blame Trump, then Koof, then Putin.
Yeah.
For everything. You know what I'm saying? For everything. The sun didn't come out today. It's Trump fault.
Yeah.
Or you know what I'm saying? Or it was COVID's fault. Now it's Pootie Tang's fault. It's like,
well, yeah, but Pootie Tang is by association Trump. I mean, that's the beauty of it. You get two guys.
Which I said that this will probably keep 45 from having a successful run the next time around. Because whatever Pootie Tang is doing now,
it might as well have done by Trump by proxy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We are in
Pootie Tang. Wait a minute. Someone posted what that was really from. I forgot what is Pootie Tang. Was it from? Not from Martin. Where's it from? Pootie Tang.
It's a movie. It's an actual movie.
Oh, it's the movie.
With Chris Rock. Yeah.
Oh, is it Chris Rock in the movie? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mo. Got my black
movie.
guy. Black guys confused.
Yeah, it was his movie, but it was a guy that actually played Pootie Tang in a different actor.
There you go. Okay.
But yeah, now you hear it's like, hold on. Now we can blame one person. And then take that one person and associate to a whole nationality of people.
Yeah.
Like this is okay now. And this is what I'm warned. This is what scares me. The same way we saw back in the before World War II, Nazi flags flying in America.
Mm-hmm.
This is how you get to that again. We have people that are supporting pro-Nazi groups in Ukraine. It's like, yeah, it's cool. No, they're the good Nazis. What?
It's even worse than that. People are asking me if I should have my head examined. How can a country that was predominantly under Soviet rule for decades, how can that all of a sudden have Nazis? Are you insane? There's no Germans there. I mean, that's literally how they talk. It's a lack of, it's complete ignorance. It's just a lack of historical knowledge.
But we can look back and see how those people got suckered in the same way. This happening right now.
Of course. Everybody gets suckered in. Absolutely.
You brought it up. I want to ask you this one question before it slips in my mind. Could this whole Ukraine thing be Operation Paperclip 2.0? You know we're going to be bringing in people from Ukraine. You know it.
Yeah. I think, no, I mean, again, for me, and that's just what I'm focused on, I see only money. Everything is fixed with financial weapons and money. So there's a financial war, and China's in it one somehow too. You know, they just printed a whole bunch of money. There's all kinds of stuff going on, Mo, and that's the sad thing. None of this is relevant. None of this has to happen. It's all about money. And fuck, man, we're the bad guys.
But even then, it was about money.
Of course.
There's some well-to-do people in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
And all over Europe, Poland, everywhere else is like, well, the kitchen's getting hot. And they're going to be considered refugees and brought to this country.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I said, could this be Operation Paperclip 2.0, where you were saying you're getting assets out of the country.
Yeah.
And that's what that Paperclip was all about. It was all about money. It's like, whoa. Those guys are too valuable to kill.
Yeah, but
let's bring them over here and give them jobs.
Well, it would be a little different. I would say it's Operation, good point, by the way. I'm going to write this down. It's an extraction, for sure. Mm-hmm. And it's an extraction of money for what money was still left. It's an extraction of operatives. I'm sure they're burning documents left and right. This whole bioweapons lab thing has all kinds of bull crap written all over it. Maybe you actually had to clean those up or let everyone know they were. I don't know, something going on there. And most possibly all the corrupt elements need to get out. They want to get out to safety because holy crap. I mean, I grew up in the Netherlands. We knew it came from Ukraine. we know it was going. You want someone killed? Yugoslavian or Ukrainian. You want a great fighter? Ukraine. The hookers? Ukraine. We know about Ukraine is legendary for weapon smuggling all over the world from Ukraine. And I think that, the corruption there's a reason why this is all focusing around Ukraine and cyber. I mean, CrowdStrike, the famous security company that determined the Russians had hacked into the DNC server, who never, as far as I know, gave a server or an image of the server to the FBI. They're a Ukrainian company. Ukraine, not the people, but Ukraine, the government stinks, and we put them in there. We, America, specifically America, not just the West, and Noodleman and CIA's Brennan and John McCain and Lady G, Lindy Hop, Graham, all of these people were the Kirsten. What's her name?
Gillibrand?
No, not Gillibrand. No. The other one, the one who ate the salad with the comb.
I know you're talking. I can't think of her name.
She was there, and they were talking to the neo-Nazis. There's photographic evidence. So, there's a lot going on.
Hello. It's like, it's just that, and it's money based because if you
the Biden crime family, need I say more? The Biden crime family.
If you're more valuable alive than dead, then we got a place for you. Come on over. We'll give you some new papers, pick up a new life, and you can work in our labs.
Yeah. Although, we leave our own people to die in Afghanistan. So these must have been pretty valuable people.
Like you said, it all goes back to money. And that's the sad part about it.
Or reputation, perhaps. Reputation would be one too. So a lot of reputations could be ruined. It's easier than killing, your operatives. They might be useful. Just kill some civilians. It's much easier.
Much easier. And then now we're seeing, even now, you don't even need, we go back to the Jussie Smollett conversation for a minute. You don't even need bodies anymore. I mean, or as many. It's like with the news and the way it works and how social media works. I mean, you've seen the one guy in the body bag moving.
Well, that was a little bit of falsified video because that was a protest where they're protesting playing dead, and it was put behind a video of a reporter in a mask with a different voice. I mean, that was amateur hour.
I guess my point is this: you can put this information out here and can be used any way you want. They don't actually need dead bodies anymore.
You're right.
The imagery, and what I'm saying, that kind of thing
it's embedded in our minds. It can be triggered with words. You can trigger the imagery totally.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, do we need to follow up on Jussie at all? I mean, with his I'm not suicidal.
I think once again, I think they're gonna. I'll say this: I got to be careful with Jussie because I see him becoming the scapegoat. Just like Epstein was the scapegoat. It's like
he used Epstein reference, with his suicide business.
Mm-hmm. We could put everything on Jussie. We could put everything on Epstein.
So he's afraid of his own people.
Yeah, of course. I mean, who else would he be afraid of?
Holy crap! Maybe his own family even.
Hey,
could be.
I've seen crazy things happen. Like I said, I think he's more valuable alive than dead right now because he's the easy scapegoat to say, oh, okay, all the ridiculous stuff they can point to him and say, oh yeah, Jussie. And it's the same thing with Soros.
He's the black pootie tang. He's the black pootie tang.
Right.
Damn.
So Yeah, so I think he's safer right now, but I think that was out of
self-preservation.
Yeah. Yeah, like to say, hey, now, just make sure they don't kill me, because we've seen it get ugly. And not, even with Epstein, I don't even think, that's just another story for another day, but I think that was more of an distraction than a killing anyway. Because
I know.
Because he's way more valuable. That's kind of like the secondary thing with his show being more valuable alive than dead.
That's why we're still on the air. Barely, but we're here.
That's how you stay. You got to just run faster than the bear. That's all you got. Well, no, it says run faster than the slowest person.
That's right.
And that's sad that we're in survival mode right now. And just to go show you how hate is like being done now, let's get into Facebook tweets to hate rules.
Oh, yeah.
Let's now shift our attention to the other big story that we are tracking on Beyond, where the US tech giant Facebook has joined the bandwagon to isolate Russia. Facebook has changed its policy on the violent hate speech against the Russian invaders, and the statement follows a report which has said that Facebook will not restrict calls for violence against the Russians and the Russian soldiers in some select countries. The Facebook's parent company Meta has said that the political expressions that would normally violate the rules will be allowed, but the company has said that calls for violence against civilians will not be permitted. The reports also showed that Meta will allow the support of the Ukrainian neo-Nazi group Azov Battalion in the context of the Ukrainian invasion. The Azov Battalion was listed as a dangerous organization by Facebook in 2016. The ease in restrictions will be allowed, mostly in ex-Soviet republics like Poland, Latvia, Romania, Slovakia, Ukraine, and even Russia. But Facebook did not comment on the policy's geographic boundaries. In the meantime, Facebook has started to clamp down on the Russian claims. Facebook took down the Russian post on the hospital bombing in Mariupol, which said that the maternity house was non-operational and was used by the Ukrainian army. Twitter has also removed Russia's tweet claiming the same. The Ukraine's digital minister said that Kiev is in fact seeking support from around 50 tech firms in a bid to try and raise awareness against Russia's continued assault on Ukraine.
Yeah, I'm glad you found this clip because I was looking for a clip and you clearly had to search pretty far to find one.
Oh yeah, this is from the World is One News, and this
India.
is nonpartisan news, fresh from New Delhi.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, because this has been on my radar and it's baffling to me. It's baffling. It's okay. And hate speech is okay as long as it's against Russian soldiers. Like,
no, that's not what he said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe we need to listen to that one more time because I had to listen to this 3 or 4 times the way he said it. He said,
Russian invaders.
He said, no, he said Russians and Russian soldiers was not okay as a targeted towards one individual. So you can say, I hate Russians all day. You can say I hate Russians all day.
Really?
You can wind it back and listen to it if you want, because it's very nuanced.
Yeah, let's listen again. Sure.
Let's now shift our attention to the other big story that we are tracking on Beyond, where the US tech giant Facebook has joined the bandwagon to isolate Russia. Facebook has changed its policy on the violent hate speech against the Russian invaders, and the statement follows a report which has said that Facebook will not restrict calls for violence against the Russians and the Russian soldiers in some select countries.
Right.
The Facebook's parent company Meta.
Subtle.
Very subtle. So now you can go on there and say you hate Russia and Russians all you want, and it's okay, and you can show support for known Nazi groups. That's okay.
It boggles the mind.
It's designed to. It's so absurd. I believe it's designed to do that, to say, whoa. And if you just think about, if you were to say this maybe 4 or 5 years ago about everybody in Afghanistan, when people said, go, that wouldn't be tolerated. But it's these very fluid rules that makes for even a tougher society as well.
And the rules are communicated to us through the media, and it's very effective.
So I just wanted to let people know that. So now people might be asking, like, so what's your beef with Soros? Okay,
yeah, Mo, what's your beef with Soros, Mo?
I have 2 beefs with Soros. One I'm going to play is how he is being, him and the Open Society have been basically studying black people, specifically black men. And this is from the actual Open Society YouTube page. And this is, why do black people stereotype? Why do people stereotype black men? Ask your brain.
You know, most Americans are really very fair-minded, egalitarian people. We believe in equality for all races, all genders. The challenge is that while our conscious selves are egalitarian, we still hold these unconscious or somewhat implicit biases that have been primed in us over many years, largely through media and culture. One of those stereotypes is we equate black men with fear. When race drops into a conversation, our executive brains shut down on both sides. So if you are a white American who is, you know, a very fair-minded person, when race is presented to you, your brain will start to wonder, you know, is what I'm about to say next going to be perceived by the other person as racist or biased? And if you are of color, your brain likewise shuts down, right? It says, okay, is something about to come at me that might be an opportunity to invalidate my life experience? Both of your brains are going into fight or flight mode. It's just not a recipe for a meaningful, honest dialogue around something that's so critical and so important. Some of the work that we've been doing with the Campaign for Black Male Achievement is really trying to disarm people's anxiety around dealing with race and black men and boys. If you are conscious of the fact that you are stereotyping someone, conscious of the fact that you are treating someone differently, when you're confronted in that situation, you will self-correct. That can affect us whether we're talking about our daily informal interactions or whether we are talking about improving the jury instructions or improving the ways teachers or police officers or doctors actually interact with patients who happen to be black men.
Oh, that's really interesting. And I say it for this reason, because the more you and I talk, the longer we talk. What have we done now? We've done several hundred hours, I guess.
Yes, easily.
300 hours at least. So 300 hours of talking, and I'm still learning so much, and it's changed me so much because, of course, I'm exactly like described. I'm a very nice, loving person. I don't think I'm racist at all, and I'm not. But I have a complete ignorance, like huge ignorance. Just didn't learn, didn't know, have no idea. I think you have the same for me, maybe to a lesser extent, maybe not. But this goes for all groups, And it's just so sad to see that instead of exploring and talking and having discourse and that being encouraged, the opposite is taking place.
And here's my beef with Soros and the lady in the clip. Everything she said was spot on about the lizard brain and flight or fright and these kind of things.
That's your amygdala at work right there.
Right. They understand this and how stereotypes and how people stereotypes of black men, quote unquote, come out of fear. So you didn't give thought to that when you would say we're going to set buildings on fire for a whole summer. How that would be perceived.
Well, no, I hear it differently. I hear this is the problem, and this is what we use to manipulate people. That's what I hear. It's like we know very well how to manipulate people, and this is the mechanism we use.
Exactly, but I'm not a damn mechanism. That's the whole point. And my image is not a mechanism. I think you hit it spot on right there. Is that okay? You understand how fear can be triggered by these situations, and then you go on to proceed to use your dollars to fund Black Lives Matter, Inc., the riot, Antifa, riots, all these different things that basically to win an election. And I mean, and everything that follows that. I mean, it wasn't just an election. It was to win an election so they could bring about the change that they want to bring about.
But that's a good point. And of course, we followed that and tracked it. But, election over, we got the win. Thanks, BLM Inc. Pew, gone.
Right. But then you look back and say, okay, that's still all that triggering that you conjured up is still here. And then when you look at the local news, a couple of things happened with those riots. One, it told people, shut up, and you're not seeing what you're seeing.
Yes.
That's one, like you said.
These are peaceful protests. Yeah, that's not fire. That's not fire. It's peaceful.
2, the third wave, you embolden the third wave. That was the whole point of it. The first wave, the second wave. The first wave, let's just explain that right quick. The first wave is your activists on the ground after an event like George Floyd happens, right? And they kind of bring attention to it. Then the second wave is the provocateurs. They come out there and break the glass. And that's metaphorical for, civility. They break the glass, and then here comes the third wave. And then the third wave is used on the news. This is how this was highlighted. And it took me a minute to really process how it was highlighted. That third wave was not to embolden the left, because the left was going to do what they were going to do. It was to say to the people on the right, this is going to happen until you get Trump out of there.
Right. Yes.
This is a mercy vote. You know what I'm saying? Just vote the way we want you to vote, and we'll call off our dogs. That's how I see it. And that's why I find it disgusting, because they use these people. Mm-hmm. And of course, you had to be complicit to be used. But nonetheless, when you're triggering people, as they said, with the racial mindset, your brain goes to crap.
And once you know the trick, though, it's easy to use it over and over again. And you don't want to be the lever, just like straight white men are now being used as a lever. And of course, we knew that because that was the warning. We're first, and then everybody else follows.
Right.
So, but everybody, every group, they figured it out. It's like, it's one thing to have really rich donors. The Democrats figured that out by looking at the Republicans. Certainly the early Bush, the first Bush years, and before, and then they said, well, shit, we can just do this racialized thing, and I think it's second nature to them, Mo. It's second nature to them now.
Yeah, it is second nature to them, but the problem is the collateral damage. Like, yes. There was no, okay, how do we exit this plan?
This is something Tina and I talk about all the time. It's like, how could they not have thought through the damage masks would do to children and communicative skills and development? And then how could they have not thought through this financial deplatforming of Russia now that all this stuff is... How could they have not... Of course, the answer is on its face. They're doing it on purpose.
Yeah, don't be confused that they're confused.
Yes.
When we look at it through that paradigm, so now, okay, it's intentional. Yeah. So now, here's the problem, and we can get into the donation segment after this, but I just want to highlight this out. For me personally, 1, I'm not dumb enough to go along with it, but 2, I'm too smart that I see what's going on and I can point it out.
Right.
So it's like, oh, you won't go along with it, so you're not down. And then the fact when you try to point out, oh, you're anti-Semite.
Yeah, it's like, exactly. Whatever we need to use, we'll use it. And of course, an anti-Semite for a black man is even worse.
Correct.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's a running trope or a meme. But so that's the wrap on the first block. And now we got to think the people that make this happen.
First, the white man and the black man have to be able to sit down at the same table. The white man has to feel free to speak his mind without hurting the feelings of that Negro. And the so-called Negro has to feel free to speak his mind without hurting the feelings of the white man. Then they can bring the issues that are under the rug out on top of the table and take an intelligent approach to get the problem solved. That's the only way that they'll ever do it.
Yes, this is a value for value proposition, this fantastic walk through history with relative current events. It's the school known as Moe Factz with Adam Curry. We're very happy that you're here and enjoying it. The hard times have hit all donations across the board, by the way. I've noticed this on No Agenda and other shows. It's I think a lot of people are nervous about what's going on, and it shows a little bit in our donations. This is the only way that we can make this happen. As you know, there's no commercials, there's no and no corporate money. There's nothing that goes in here except the love that we want to turn into something useful, and we need support for that. Certainly, in the current situation that Mo's in. Are you still eating, Mo? I just want to check.
Oh yes.
I I mean, I only say that half jokingly, but you're hanging in. Yeah, okay. Well, so we could definitely use more support. There's so many different ways to do it. One of them is by getting a new podcast app. You can do that with your Boostergrams, and we'll read some of those later on in the donation segment. But also Cash App, PayPal. You can find it all at mofactz.com. Go directly to the donation page at mofundme.com. And let's thank our executive and associate executive producers for episode number 78. We kick it off with Amy Mullen. $145.15. The big baller for today.
Baller. Shot caller, 20-inch blades on the Impala.
Amy says, hey, Mo and Adam, thank you for the show. Please credit this donation to my husband, John Moochink. Okay, switcheroo. Hold on a second. I love me some switcheroo. A few months after he did the Rona. Oh, this is a new thing? We did the Rona?
I guess so.
I hadn't heard of this. Okay.
It's a popular new dance.
Hey, do the Rona.
Step, call.
He came into the kitchen and proclaimed something like, I finally agree with reparations, thanks to a black man. Please deadbeat John, okay.
Congratulations. You're no longer a deadbeat.
And she continues, we had disagreed on reparations/atonement before this. Neither of us had facts to back us up. We were just parroting emotionally tinged propaganda from our sides. This show blows our minds in the best possible ways and spurs great discussions. We don't have our sides anymore. We don't agree with each other 100%. I don't agree with y'all 100%, but we'll never make it if, as a species and civilization or through this decade, if we can't sit and talk to each other. This is one of the best notes I've read in a while. And specifically because she says, sorry, this note is long. No, it's not. It's not long.
And timely.
It's timely, yes. It's a third of the length of my first few drafts. Your show has given us so much that it's tough to stop saying thank you. Love and light and Mo Karma for all from Amy. And, of course, that was for John, and we appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You've got
Mo Karma.
Speaking of the Rona, I still have a voice thing going on, which started after the... and I hear someone else told me, remember I had hair pain?
Yes.
Someone told me that my hair might fall out in a couple of months.
Oh, no.
Exactly. I mean,
is it insured? Like Lords of London or something?
That's my personal third rail, Mo. My hair.
Oh, well, you're in good company then. So I'll file that in the original third rail. So.
Patrick Remensberger is next with $100. Says, thank you for your service, sharing your show with anyone with ears to hear and eyes to see. Thank you. That's very important, getting more people in the Facts family. Sir Goldplate, also $100. No note. We appreciate it, Sir Goldplate. Kanitha Davis, $100. Appreciate you, brother. Keep doing what you do. With an emoji. I don't know which one it was.
That's cash, I believe. No, that's not the cash. I think that's the prayer hands, I believe.
Okay.
They translate weird. But she's a day one supporter.
Beautiful.
Day one.
Oh, wait. Oh, my goodness. Miguel Espinal actually came in with 2 times a 100 donation, so kind of is a big baller.
Oh, no.
Yes, I think we have to ball again. We got an even bigger baller.
Baller, shot caller, 20-inch blades on the Impala.
Had not seen that, Miguel. Thank you so much. 2 times 100. Beautiful.
And we don't renege on big ballers.
No, we do not. Ever. No.
That was my mistake.
No, she gets her big baller status. We can have 2 ballers. I just
want to make sure, you know what I'm saying, that we sure that was my mistake. Sorry, Miguel.
It's okay. I'm sure everyone will survive. We move on to...
I don't know. Get serious.
Well, yeah. Archie Brentano, $78.23. Howdy again. I didn't get the first donation in time for episode 77, so here's some more value. So I can get a double show number, 77.77 plus 78.23, or 78 and 78. Thanks for another perspective /archive. And do we have the other note? Yes, this is the next one. And he had 77.77, so... he's definitely up there in the special episode list. Mo and Adam, this again is Archie. I've been listening since Adam accidentally posted the show to the No Agenda feed and had to go back to episode 1 to current. Yeah, remember that when I did that? I accidentally put in the No Agenda feed. It truly was an accident. Or was it the hand?
A glitch.
Was it the hand of the Lord? I don't know. You never know how these things happen. The show has been very helpful to expose me to other points of view, as well as the mandatory DEIA training, the diversity, equity, inclusion, and what's the A for?
Alliance? I'm guessing.
I don't know. Can I get a D deadbeating? Oh, atonement. Can I get a D deadbeating? Yes, you can.
Congratulations. You're no longer a deadbeat.
And he says the MoeFactz.com needs an updated favicon. Oh, yeah. I think do I have to do that? I might have to do that. It's where the little icon shows up in your browser.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those things. There's a way to do that. I got to look into that. I should know this. It's crazy. I've been doing websites for 30 years. PPS, I also have a non sequitur question for Adam. How do I get good quality stroopwafel in the States? I just haven't found anything that was as good as what I got in Amsterdam. So far, Trader Joe's comes the closest. Yes. And you know what this is, the stroopwafel, the stroopwafel? Mo, are you familiar with this?
Is that the little thin?
It's a thin wafer, kind of like a waffle with like molasses in the middle.
My man Jan, that I used to work with at my former place of employment, he used to bring them back fresh from the Netherlands.
And that's the point. You cannot get, and if it's not fresh, and we would get them at the baker, I mean, it's never going to taste the same. It's just not. I mean, most people bring them for me because they know I like them when they send them, and I'll eat them, but it's tough going. It's not really the fresh Amsterdam baker stroopwafel. I thought there was someone who was making them in the States, actually.
I think he said Trader Joe's was pretty good. I think I've had them.
Yeah, I've had the Trader Joe's
before.
Yeah, but
that's kind of the same company, but it's nowhere near the.
You know the story about those two, don't you? Trader Joe's.
I do not know.
It was two.
Yeah, I do know. Yes.
Two brothers, and they got in a fight.
Taryn family. See.
Yeah, over one wanted to sell tobacco products, and the other one didn't, and they said screw it. So now they have. They're two separate companies.
And I had to do this now because I apologize. And it's irking me. This donation list is crap, but it's not my fault.
Is this something else we're missing?
It's Bill Gates. No, because those two added together should have been higher on the list.
I know you're upset. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
You know how, man, it's my Mo CD. It flares up.
Mo CD. Mo CD. Okay, we'll continue. Now these are associate executive producers, of which we have a couple. Megan Emery, who did not send us a note, but sent us $50. Oh, there's Phoebe, who was contributing. I'll just continue. Edwin Torres, $50. GBG, Give Blacks Guns. Thank you very much, Edwin. And Brandon Archer, who wants a cancel cannon. And we got that. We played it earlier. And he also sent us $50 for an associate executive producership. We appreciate it. And those are the executive and associate executive producers. A couple of boostergrams I wanted to read. Now, these are fun because you're actually sending value as you're listening to the show, which is really exciting for us to watch little tiny bits, fractions of pennies come in. But over time, we hope to build some generational wealth between our two families, and we're keeping all of this stuff in the Bitcoin wallet. And we kick it off with Harvhat, who sent us 11,111, so a whole row of sticks through CurioCaster. We have NetNed, 10,000 sats. Keep up the good work using this Fountain app. Lavish with 69.69. Mo with the new dough, he says. Thank you. The value for episode 77 coming from our anonymous donor, Breeze, through the Breeze app, 5,000 sats. Thank you. Sir Doug sent us 4,400. We have Cas Peeland, always good for some sats, 3,300. Thanks for the show. We have Yuhomeli with a combined 44.44 and 2 rows of ducks. Nomad Joe, thanks from the road with 2,000 sats. Brian of London, 1948 with another small Israeli independence boost from Israel. And Sir Dwayne Melanson comes in twice with 1,000 sats. He says, I haven't read or listened to Stephen Covey in a long time. I'd forgotten how insightful he was. Keep it up. And he sent another 1,000 sats with that. Piez, 500 sats. Amazing work, guys. Love the show. What you both contribute to these turbulent times. Clued with 333. Hey, Adam and Mo, I want to send in some value, although 333 isn't a lot. I want to let you know I'm going to contribute some talent. I'm currently working on a Moe Factz transcript database and currently have a minimum viable product. Here's a link to the preview. Oh, crap. Did you look at this thing?
I can't see it.
Oh, it's a YouTube link.
It's in the boost, right?
Oh, no, of course you can't see that. What am I talking about? You don't. I will, of course, put the link in the show notes at mofactz.com. This is pretty cool. I love this kind of stuff. So we have transcripts on every single show, and we've been going back, and we've been Dreb Scott has been adding chapters and been trying to retroactively, put some stuff in. The transcripts are really fantastic because it's a great way to find stuff. You can find stuff in any podcast player that supports it. Oh man, there's Rona thing. Excuse me. But he's put together a database where you can go in and search stuff, and it'll show you each episode where you need to go. So this will be really powerful as a research tool. And also when we go like, what was that in again? What show was that? Boom, it'll show up.
Exactly, because it'll help me go back. Yeah. I'll definitely be using it.
Love that, man. Thank you so much, Clue. That's really appreciated. Chad Farrow, 333. Chad, we appreciate, man. We love you. And Fightless Birds, 33 sats. Those are your boostergrams. Get a new podcast app at newpodcastapps.com. You can send all kinds of amounts to that, as big as you want, as small as you want. But definitely every single time you open a new podcast app, Moe Factz with Adam Curry will be there. It can't be deplatformed or taken away. And we'll thank a couple more producers in our second segment. Thank you again for supporting episode number 78 of Moe Factz with Adam Curry. As always, mofactz.com, MoFundMe, MoeFundme.com.
And I would like to send prayers out to Lorraine Converse.
Okay.
Just everybody keep her in your prayers. She's big time time and talent produced on the fax machine.
Mm-hmm.
So she's dealing with I think she sent a note into No Agenda as well. That she's battling the cancer. So
yes. She's been in our prayers for a bit here.
Yeah. I had it in the list I created, and like I said, just keep that's the thing, guys. Just time and talent. The treasure also helps. I'm cool, but at the same time, it's some big stuff I'm trying to pull off, and I need that. I need help with that. So
yeah, with the treasure part, I'll say it for you. Yes,
and all that. Like I said, this I'm good. I just want to let everybody know, like, it's just we're trying to, as you've seen with the transcript thing, we're trying to grow this thing to something that's going to be.
And know that, every week there's something going on, because we also have the lost tapes on the alternating Wednesdays. And have you been doing any other one-off rips with anybody in between that I might not have caught?
I haven't, because I've been focusing my time on the things that we have under the cover steals.
Under development, yeah.
Yeah, under development. So that's eating into my time as well. But I plan to I have a to-do list of people I have to talk to, and I plan to get back on that. But yeah, like I said, I want to pull these big things off. So we just need the treasure as well as the time and talent. But yeah. So just get back on the upbeat.
Yes, upbeat. Back to Soros. Where are we?
Right, that's the upbeat. Yeah. No. So what we have now is here's a weird paradox, because we have Dave Pacman. This is from show 7. That tells you how far back we've been talking about Soros.
Mm-hmm.
And this is him, who was from a Jewish lineage, saying that Soros was using AstroTurf via Black Lives Matter to attack Bernie Sanders, who is also of Jewish descent. So it's
yeah.
Yeah. So let's just get into this throwback clip.
And I have a very, very specific idea that we need to explore seriously, which is that the anti-Bernie Sanders tinge of the Black Lives Matter movement recently could be George Soros-funded AstroTurf. And I will speak as specifically as possible, Lewis, and then I will allow you, Lewis, to tell me what you think about this. It's widely on record that George Soros, the liberal billionaire, has poured a ton of money into two movements that were instrumental in creating Black Lives Matter and the buzzword. Dating back to January, we knew that George Soros spent over $30 million bankrolling Ferguson demonstrators. And of course, Ferguson relates to Officer Darren Wilson, who killed unarmed teenager Michael Brown and was ultimately not charged. This includes support by George Soros of groups like Color Lines News for Action, Organization for Black Struggle, which established the Hands Up Coalition. Soros also gave money to the Drug Policy Alliance, which worked on pushing Black Lives Matter as a buzzword, which has since been incorporated into speeches by political figures, including Hillary Clinton.
There's a real fallacy in this, I'm realizing. I'm glad we're talking about this. The fact, if you look at the Open Society Institute website, this is not one man. This is a vast, vast organization with ambassadors, not like political ambassadors, but ambassadors to the Open Society Institute, people, like elites, royalty, princesses and princes. This is a very, very, very big organization. A lot of people control the purse strings. It's not just George Soros saying, "Oh, I got an idea." And you rarely hear about it because it's big. That thing is vast.
And I doubt he hears half of the ideas that's pitched.
Of course, like any big organization, sure.
Right. He holds people responsible, accountable for decision-making on their appropriate level, and they just sign checks and say, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Let me write you a check, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it's his money.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's accountable for how his money is being spent. And as you can see, it definitely went into fueling Black Lives Matter, Inc. And that's a problem because we know what their stance is towards black men. And at the same time, you can't say he's not aware or doesn't know because we just heard the last clip coming from the Open Society about stereotypes and how
complete knowledge of what's going on.
So it's like but I'm not confused that they're confused. I think they play both sides. Even when he probably makes his bets against the market, I'm sure there's some kind of
a hedge there. A hedge, of course.
So these are the hedges, right? It's like, okay, yeah, we're going to bet on this side and we're going to bet on this side, and no matter how it comes out, we'll make some money off of it, which. It's smart business. I mean, I'm not mad at him about the business, but it's when you play ignorant when I point it out. That's gaslighting.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where the problem comes in at. So we have people over at the Heritage Foundation provide this next set of clips. And this is George Soros and the destruction of law and order.
When we talk about the justice system, we typically think about judges. And for good reason. They have tremendous power. But what about other parts of the justice system? What about district attorneys? The way the system works is that judges hear the cases and deliver the opinions. But district attorneys typically decide what cases to even bring before the judge. According to the U.S. Bureau of Justice Statistics, there are over 2,300 district attorneys in the U.S., all wielding tremendous power to decide what crimes to prosecute, what penalties to push for, and maybe most importantly, what crimes not to prosecute. They are the truest reflection of how a locality views justice.
Yep. I've witnessed this myself, close up.
Yeah, and me as well. But I think a lot of people don't understand how powerful that position is. But
I'll tell my story, and that may give a different light. A friend of mine in California was involved in something that I would say looked like financial fraud. The total amount was and it was not, it was a company transaction. and it had to do with copyrights and licensing. So it wasn't cut and dry like, shit was in a warehouse and going out the back on trucks. It had more to do with almost with labeling. But it was a $250,000 problem, and he paid the $250,000, and then he went to jail for 18 months and as a felony. And he's fucked. His life is still 4 years later in shambles. And to me, that was unnecessary.
Yeah, they pick and choose. They pick and choose.
Yeah, because someone knew the district attorney, and this guy got the book thrown at him.
That's
another problem. Side, and people can say, "Oh, boo-hoo," But I've seen, and now I think, oh man, you have someone who goes in with nothing. You ain't coming out with anything ever.
Or do they? I mean, this is.
Well, that's the next point. Yes, exactly.
Okay, so with that said, we realize what the power of the district attorney is, and you don't hear this on the mainstream news. Let's go ahead and get to the second part of this clip.
If you were paying attention to the news a couple weeks ago, you might have caught this, awkward exchange on the Fox News channel between Newt Gingrich, Harris Faulkner, and Melissa Francis discussing the costs of the recent damage from the riots.
The number one problem in almost all these cities is George Soros elected left-wing,
classic,
anti-police, pro-criminal district attorneys who refuse to keep people locked up. Progressive district attorneys are anti-police, pro-criminal, and overwhelmingly elected with George Soros' money, and they're a major cause of the violence we're seeing because they keep putting the violent criminals back on the street.
I'm not sure we need to bring George Soros into this. I was going to say you'd get the last word, Speaker.
He paid for it. I mean, why can't we discuss the fact that millions of dollars he spent?
I agree with Melissa. George Soros doesn't need to be a part of this conversation.
Okay. So it's for both.
All right. We're going to... Okay. We're going to move on.
Oh, boy. Awkward indeed.
Man, I love that you brought that clip back. That is so good. That was Newt's goodbye.
And since when can't we talk about who's funding political campaigns? In a way, this is kind of like a
censorship,
form of voter suppression.
Of course. It was just it's an unbelievable piece of video.
Especially the fact that it was Fox. So this goes to show you that this, even within a network, they give airtime to Tucker Carlson, but it's like, okay, you can be on at night, right? You can be on at night, but during the daytime, it's like we can't discuss that. Certain people are watching.
Well, also don't make no mistake that 99% of all, and maybe Tucker's the only one, and maybe not. These people are mostly just reading scripts. They're reading questions. I mean, I've been here. Mm-hmm. I know exactly how it works. And there's an earpiece, and they're being told, no, we're not going to talk about Soros. Cut him off. And then then smoke comes out of their ears, and that's the result. Not because they're just like, bleh. These are news models. Mm-hmm. But that's the institution. It's the institution, and you can't talk about it. It's crazy.
But they bring Russia back into this for a minute. You're saying not too much, but
same thing.
Right. When you hear Tucker Carlson, when it goes off, what's the other guy behind him?
Sean Hannity.
Sean Hannity. It's like it's a 180-degree pivot.
Yeah, Sean's all pro-war, and let's go get Putin.
It's once again, it's jarring. So it goes to show you that even within these same news operations, they have a wide, not even wide, but just polar opposite, viewpoints.
Which is kind of how it should be, except it's one little, Tucker Carlson is one piece, and I certainly am not all in on everything he says.
Right.
But it should at least not be the same voice, the same message all the time, which is the rest of Fox is pretty similar. I mean, when it comes to war, for sure.
And that's the thing right there. It's war hawks.
Yeah.
A
lot of, hey, look at we just spent $1.5 trillion. I mean, we're going to go print it, but that was the bill, literally the bill, and how much the bill was. And 780 million of that goes to the military. So if you don't think that money's not circling around and isn't important in what gets mentioned on television or what gets to the top of the media, you're crazy. I'm not saying you, Mo, but I'm just saying in general. That's why. I mean, just follow the money.
And that's like I said, that's the running theme of this show is you have to make the dollars and cents of it. So through my digging, I was able to find the actual what was being heard in the earpieces during this Newt Gingrich clip.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I love it. Can you play it?
Yes.
Speaker Gingrich, I know you have a final thought for us.
Yeah, look, the number one problem in almost all these cities is George Soros elected left-wing, anti-police, pro-criminal district attorneys who refuse to keep people locked up. Just yesterday, they put somebody back on the street who's wanted for 2 different murders in New York City. You cannot solve this problem, and both Harris and Biden have talked very proudly about what they call progressive district attorneys. Progressive district attorneys are anti-police, pro-criminal, and overwhelmingly elected with George Soros's money, and they're a major cause of the violence we're seeing because they keep putting the violent criminals back on the street.
Oh, what did he say? What did he say?
What was that? What did he say? Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
What did that say? Oh, you are hereby.
Listen, so go to camera one. Come on.
What? Camera one. Cut the feed. Cut it.
Cut it. Cut
it. Listen to me. Oh, listen to me. Listen to me.
Listen to
crazy harlot. Listen, you need to cut out his tongue. We can have no mention of the Soros man. Cut it. Cut his tongue.
Thinking? Remember, he paid for your Botox.
Pretty much what I said.
So, I mean, that's a joke, but that's kind of you, if you can see the visual.
And I have lived in these studios. That's really how it goes.
And the weird thing about that whole clip was the anchor was like staring like, seriously, you want me to steer him away that hard away from it? Because she like froze like a deer in her headlights.
She did, yeah.
And was like, what do I say? Because she knew it was going to be weird. And he was like, oh, so it's just verboten. Yes, you cannot talk about Soros. And this was right in the middle of, the heated election process. So that goes to show you the lengths that they went to that their listeners, Fox listeners, couldn't even hear about Soros.
They take the political money that goes into advertising is just as green when it's from George Soros. Makes no difference to Fox. Makes no difference. That's why we're value for value. That's why we can truly speak our mind. It's the only way. The only way.
It's the only way it can happen. So let's go ahead and get back into the destruction of Law and Order 3.
But why not bring George Soros into this? It's apparent that Soros is indeed funding an effort to support district attorney candidates who want to fundamentally change how district attorneys function. Enter the Justice and Public Safety PAC and its chair, Whitney Tymas.
We're looking for challengers who are interested in truly changing their offices once elected. So we're looking for forward-thinking, reform-minded prosecutors. Now, these are folks who are more likely to be focused on creating policy that would result in reducing unnecessary confinement, right? Or prioritizing treatment over incarceration, or looking for diversion, opportunities to divert people out of the system, or seeking lesser charges for nonviolent offenses, for example, holding police officers accountable.
According to OpenSecrets.org, This group has and is funding several district attorney campaigns in cities big and small around America and speaks openly about their intentions to use money George Soros donates to replace traditional DAs with so-called reform-minded DAs. They claim they're doing this for greater justice and more safety. But as we've seen with the recent riots, many of these cities that have been damaged the most have DAs who have either been supported by Soros-type groups or they're of the same judicial philosophy.
I must say the music is really painful.
It is, right?
Oh, man.
I wish there was some kind of way I could scrub the music out of these clips.
You can't, but okay.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Who's making this? I mean, over the Heritage Foundation? Yeah, y'all gonna have to get into the 21st century.
Please.
The style is not.
Yeah, very 90s.
You're not gonna get your information out. Yeah,
very level when the Apple had those makeup like laptops with all the pretty colors. That's when this bullshit started. Bloom, 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 bloom. Oh yes, the iBook. What was it called? The iCompact. All that shit.
The delivery matters. You know what I'm saying?
Sure
delivery
does.
definitely
Sure does.
matters. So, but what I want to point out in this is they said they were doing it for the safety. The safety of who?
Right.
Are you that dense that you don't understand if you keep letting people out of jail repeatedly, and then you give them the freedom to do what they did for the whole summer of 2020? You think they're just going to shut it off after the election? It don't work that way.
I'm kind of afraid where this is going. I mean, if this is headed towards a new crime bill at the end of the show.
I think that's, we've talked about it before, but I don't think we've heard on the last show. That's kind of what we're feeding off that as well.
Yeah.
Biden said we're going to fund the police. And I don't think he's talking about guys in blue uniforms and cars. No. They're talking about surveillance and
technology.
Technology,
DNA,
and,
surveillance, eye in the sky, drones,
social credit
tracking.
Score.
Yep. Yeah.
How I see this being is, this is just in my mind, your certain credit score is going to allow you to be in certain areas. And those are going to be quote unquote slums. And people, it's not going to be, well, it's going to be tied to economic status as well. But you can't go outside of these zones unless you have a certain score at certain times.
Right.
And I think that's how they're going to implement this whole thing. But they're like, oh, yeah, that's progress. It's like, yeah, because you get to go and live in your nice neighborhood with your private police. But the poor people you're saying that you think you're working for are the ones that are going to be victimized. You create laws like, oh, anything under $1,000 is not a real crime.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, thieves know. Like, I'm only going to steal everything that's $999.99. You know, and you got to let me out. Man, so it's the reason why this really upsets me is the fact that it's people that are, if they could go to better places, they would. Yeah. It's like this is the only place they can go, and you've even made that more dangerous. This is your salute for what? I mean, but it's for the greater good because they have that mentality. If they die, they die. It's for, it's good for the planet. Very sick. Very, very sick.
Sick is the right word. These people who are doing this are sick.
But they're lizards. So, I mean, I get it. I understand.
They're not people. Yeah, they're lizards. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I get it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, we got to fight. And flight is not an option. We can't leave. So this is where they're going with it. But I guess we can go ahead and get into number 4.
So what would our justice system look like if far-left DAs transformed it toward more lenient and compassionate outcomes? Or challenged laws they didn't agree with by declining to even bring charges? What is the connection between current unrest in our cities and funding from people like George Soros? And what do they have to gain?
Now, I don't think there's any question that all of these things are part of some coordinated effort. I don't think you have to be a conspiracy theorist or wear a tinfoil hat to think, something is afoot here. Every night we have buildings being burned down, and there doesn't seem to be any real end in sight, and there doesn't seem to be any idea as to how we're going to get out of this right now.
Jason Johnson is a friend of the Heritage Foundation and the president of the Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund. On this episode, he tells the story of 6 prominent cities that have recently switched to
Just FYI, I just want everyone to understand what just was said there. This is them thanking the donor, the guy who was just talking. It's just good to know, because that's what he says. A friend of the Heritage Foundation means he gave money. So there's also money in this Heritage Foundation, so just make sure we all are aware.
Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund.
Hold on, let me just go back.
Jason Johnson is a friend of the Heritage Foundation and the president of the Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund. On this episode, he tells the story of 6 prominent cities that have recently switched to so-called reform district attorneys. The results are chilling. Prosecutorial malpractice, progressive prosecutors, public safety, and felony outcomes. That's the big report. And I'm going to tell you what, folks, it's not that long. It's very easy to understand and grab on to the insane stuff that they are finding right now.
I'm glad you pointed that out, because you're saying you beat me to the punch that this is about money on both sides.
Yes, sir.
He was campaigning to make sure, hey, Biden, we need to make sure we're being taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that he lined their pockets as well.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to be more police on the streets. It's going to be more algorithms, better algorithms in their mind that calculate and see who needs to be locked up. But there's no policing. There's no, protecting and serving is going to go on. It's just going to be straight. How do we control? How do we control these people?
Yep. Rules-based control.
And that's a huge problem, because what's even the worst part about it is that it's going to be, they're going to make it to the point where the people who's being victimized beg for their own 2.0 crime bill. We've seen this before, because when the first crime bill came out, what they say? Well, the black leaders and the black congressional caucus begged us, to do something about the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so your solution was mass incarceration? That was the solution? So what scares me is like, what's the solution going to be this time?
I don't know, Mo. It's probably not going to be great.
Well, it'll be what we stand for. That's what I mean. That's the whole point. We're not going to doom and gloom out, because it's not what we do. It's the point of, what are you okay? What are you going to stand for? I know we talked a lot about money, but also they can't shut us all up.
No,
right?
no,
I mean,
and of course, none of what they are doing, none of the practices we're seeing, the canceling, the shutdowns, etc., is because their plan is working so great. It's because it's not, because they need more control, more of their message getting through, and less of anything else. So that's proof. It's proof that we have power.
And they want to shut you up, because even a cop that was talking, or a guy that worked for, what was his name? Hold on. I have his name here. Jason Johnson, from the Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund.
Yes, yeah.
Notice this legal defense fund, because that's going to pop up in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Even he was saying, I'm not wearing a tinfoil hat.
Right. You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to see
you
this.
had to put this together, because he's conscious of how it comes across when you talk about an overarching scheme that goes to the very top.
Yeah.
So he had to, preface his whole statement by doing that. So that lets you know that what we do here, I think, makes it to the point where you don't have to preface that. We try to bring the facts and, their own words to light.
That's all we're doing.
So I guess we can go ahead and get to number 24.
Throw the baby out with the bathwater idea, that really many of these ideas that have come up that you just hit on are going to be devastating to so much of American life in ways that I don't think we can even really consider right now. Just the threat to public safety, the threat to law and order, the threat to security.
The
instability and
he's
chaos.
asking for exactly the same thing. He doesn't want more officers. He wants more technology. He wants more surveillance. Oh my goodness, I'm hearing it now. Ugh.
In ways that I don't think we can even really consider right now. Just the threat to public safety, the threat to law and order, the threat to security, the instability and chaos that we're already seeing it play out in the streets, and the lack of accountability for the people who are engaged in it. I mean, we have cops being shot. Every night we have buildings being burned down, and there doesn't seem to be any real end in sight, and there doesn't seem to be any idea as to how we're going to get out of this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's our George Soros that's going to fund the opposite direction of where he's going? You know,
who wants that?
How do we even begin to look to push back or even make a dent in what's been going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to win sort of the middle. People who are of goodwill, who are open-minded, who maybe right now are subject to the influence of what they're seeing on some of the cable news networks, and they believe, the cops are evil or they should be defined. I mean, I'm talking about people who are generally reasonable and rational, but they've been led down this road. And the way to push back is to provide facts and to try to hope those facts take hold. Unfortunately, in our age of social media, facts are less important, I think, than they've ever been.
Okay.
And propaganda is more important than it's ever been.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
I'm glad you called it out without me having to say it. They're all asking for who's our Soros.
Yeah,
who's gonna be our daddy?
Yeah.
You know
no. Yeah, that'll work. Oh, that's a good idea. Let's do exactly the same. That'll be fine. Yeah, and who's our daddy? Jeez.
That's why we can't get to any solution, because everybody's looking for the same solution, just their brand of it. It's like, I know how to control the slaves best.
And the Heritage
turn it over to me.
Foundation. I wonder how much money they have. That's not a small organization.
No. Not at all.
I wonder. I can't. They are a nonprofit. So, what do they have? Oh, so their total revenue is $81 million a year, and they have $250 million in assets. Well,
that's why they're asking who's our Soros.
Yeah,
who's going to get us into billions like Open Society?
Right. Yeah, we're only $250 million, bro.
Yeah,
I can't
fight Soros with this.
I can't fight Soros with this little tiddlywink money here. Get me some real cash.
Yeah, that's like I said. I'm glad you picked up on what they were putting down, because it's like, and that's the whole thing. Is like the two options they give you is the same. It's like, would you like sesame seeds on that crap sandwich or no sesame seeds? It's like, I don't want to eat crap.
Yeah.
It's like, we gave you an option, take the option. But yeah, I mean, that's why we had to create our own options, like you're doing with like podcasting 2.0 with like this show here. We come and like, let's get into the middle. Let's seek first to understand and then be understood. As you heard in the letter from Amy, just the sheer conversation open them up to be able to talk to each other and talk to other people.
Yeah,
so
it makes a big difference, man. Every day I hear someone talking about it. Same thing.
And this is the only way, because as he did point out, I think his name is Jason Johnson pointed out, facts, they don't matter as much as they used to. Everything is headlines, propaganda. As you pointed out with the news story, as I brought up with the news story, you pointed out with the quote unquote dead Ukrainian in the body bag moving around.
Yeah,
you could take that and spin it any way you want to. Whoever sees it has an effect on them. The same way with the P dossier, the same thing. You hear about it, it has an effect on you.
There's one other thing that I want to add: the abbreviated nature of our information intake. Most headlines that are put on social media lead to literally a headline and a little bit of copy, and then it's paywall. So, and people are now just not even making the effort to click to even see if there's a paywall. They just take a screenshot. So now we literally are only communicating in headlines. It's very bad.
Headlines, the image,
Yeah.
But it's the same way.
Headlines and filters. Headlines and filters. That's our world.
And it's the same thing on the YouTube side. Everything I post in our clip list is majority of the time, I say 90% of the time, is exact headline from the whatever source I got it from. Like this was called George Soros and the Destruction of Law and Order. You know, that's the headline.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't let you know that, our structure
right.
it's pretty much the same as his
thing.
structure.
Same thing, yeah.
Right. So now we've talked about the Soros sisters, and I found a big one. Sherry Lynn Eiffel.
Oh, is this Gwen's sister?
I don't know.
There aren't many Eiffels out there.
I don't. Is Gwen black?
Gwen Eiffel was extremely black, yes.
Okay. I'm not familiar with Gwen.
Well, Gwen passed away. She worked for PBS.
Oh, the PBS. Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah, she died.
Okay.
Yeah, here it is. Gwen. It was her first cousin. There you go.
Oh, Boule? Oh.
You're calling Gwen back home.
Well, Sherry Lynn, she's the president of and director of counsel at the NAACP Legal Defense. Another legal defense. You juxtapose that to Jason Johnson from the Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund.
Yeah.
And before that, she was the education. She was the president of the president and director counsel of the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund.
Yeah.
I can't forget the educational part, but it's abbreviated LDF.
Yes.
But before that, she was board chairman of U.S. programs at the Open Society.
Oh no!
Yeah,
she's schooled.
Right. So I want to listen to this clip to get inside the thinking of a person that would be on the Open Society, how they feel about race, and she goes into the Black Code as well.
Just in the weeks preceding the George Floyd video, there were a couple of other videos that came out.
Yeah.
One was an encounter in Central Park. Mm-hmm. A white woman tells a black bird watcher that if he doesn't stop taping her after he had told her to put her dog on a leash, which was required in that part of the park, she tells him if he doesn't stop taping her, she's going to call the police and tell them that a black man is threatening her life.
Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
What did you see and hear in that tape?
I saw white privilege on full display and the full realization of white people that they can weaponize the police, that the police are their private constabulary, that if they just feel like they're maybe losing an argument, they can call the police. They're going to lead with the race issue because they know that the police will come and view the scene in a very particular way. They know. That's why when white people say we didn't know, when they see these videos and they say we didn't know it was this bad and we didn't know, they do know. They know that the state works for them. And they know that the state and law enforcement is embedded with the same narratives that they likely grew up with.
Yeah, we discussed this previously, didn't we?
I believe so. But just to familiarize people with the case, I guess the guy told the lady to put her dog back on the leash, and she got irate, went into full Karen mode, and was like, "Oh no, you know what I'm saying? Don't stop." I guess one thing, filming a person, I don't think that's a good way to approach a situation.
No,
but
that was a mistake on his part.
Right, but it also goes to show you that I don't think there's too many ardent Trump supporters in Central Park. She didn't give me those vibes.
No. She was no, not at all. But let's just stop for a second.
Yes.
Because this guy was no slouch. He wasn't some hoodlum. The guy who was filming. But where we've gotten to today, when overarching problem, right? We weren't there, so we don't really know what happened. But as you said, she had her dog off the leash. he took, and it's not legal, whatever, and he said, hey, could you please put your, I don't know what, if he said it that way, if he said, hey, could you please put your dog back on the leash, or hey, lady, could be any of those versions. And then in today's society, when someone says, no, I disagree, or I'm, or freaks out or whatever, then we immediately go and film it. This is actually a big problem. Everything else that comes after it, big problem. But that fact alone that we do that shit, that's as bad as calling the police in my book. It's so stupid.
Everybody wants to go viral.
Exactly. So,
everybody wants that viral moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they understand what comes with it.
They have no clue. No, they have no clue. Sometimes good, sometimes really fantastic. You can spin it into a whole thing.
And you heard the guy from 60 Minutes, I forget his name, mention that we had several videos. So now everybody's looking for that, key racial moment, right?
Yeah.
I mean, let me catch this on video so I can, win in the clout game.
Mm-hmm.
And my point is, tell her to put her dog on the leash, keep it moving. I don't understand why people got to be arguing with people over stuff, but I want to belabor the point, but I want to get into this next clip because it seemed like he was the one being the dog leash police in this case, like put your dog on the leash, you know what I'm saying, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Now we got to think about that, and now in the mindset of what's going on in New York right now with a certain protocols.
Yes.
And now in that mindset, listen to Sherry Lynn and her how she views how things should be enforced.
And so she tells this black man to his face, she knows she's being videotaped, that she is going to weaponize the New York City Police Department. She's going to weaponize them against him if he doesn't stop filming her.
There is an African-American man. I am in Central Park. He is recording me and threatening myself and my dog.
It's a powerful moment and moment for pause for us to think about the kind of power that we put into the hands of the average white person who believes that they are deputized to control the movements of black people. This is actually what existed after the Civil War with the creation of black codes, where black people could be questioned by any white person and asked to show their papers showing their employment, that some white person employed them, and that therefore they had the right to be on a public road. That's how they used to try to police us after the Civil War. After we were theoretically free from slavery, they created these state codes and city ordinances that controlled our conduct. And that's what you see when you see, all of these people who call 911 on black people having a barbecue or standing outside their house or whatever they're calling about.
Teenagers going to a swim party.
Teenagers going to a swim party is the fundamental belief of most white people that they have the right to question a black person's legitimacy and essentially ask the black person to show their freedom papers, essentially to show that they have the right to enter this building, to be in this hallway, to be in the gym we saw recently, right?
Holy crap. Well, y'all were really early on with that shit. You got the freedom papers, but now that it's expanded, now I'm black too. Freedom papers for the Rona.
I tell you about the mask when we first started talking about the Rona? When you were saying when you went out without a mask on.
Oh yeah. Oh, totally.
First time.
Yeah, it was a great. I mean, it wasn't a great experience, but it was very eye opening.
No, I'll following the rules.
I'll tell the story,
please.
We were still in Austin, and there wasn't really. I'm not quite sure. At a certain point, I was just done with the mask. I don't even know what the status or level was. I don't care. I was like, I'm just want to walk into Whole Foods. I'm just going to go about my business, and I'm just going to not wear my mask, and I'll see what happens. And it'll be. I want to know how are people really feeling about this? Will I get yelled at? And it was fucking weird. I was worried. I had to sit in the car. So I'm going to put my mask in my back because, in my back pocket, just in case, I don't want to get into any altercations. And no one, and what was interesting is nobody cared. It was on one hand, it was like, oh my God, I feel so good doing this, but it was very weird. And I most specifically remember another guy without a mask, and we gave one of those, what's up, bro? I was like, and I totally understood the analogy. I totally got it. Totally.
If anything go down, I got your back. You know
yeah, right. Yeah, and now does that mean? I don't know if that means that I have white privilege.
No, what that is just that the fact that you can live unaware is how everybody should be able to live unaware.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to, when I walk into a store, I'm not thinking with this mind of, how am I being perceived?
That's it.
But
right.
Through the social norms, now you have to worry about how you're being perceived, because I had a maskless moment here recently. I mean, the allergies, you probably can hear it during the show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the allergies and stuff are kicking up. And I was in a store with without a mask on the other day,
mm-hmm.
and I started coughing, and people looked at me was like coof alert, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm self-conscious. I'm trying to stop, you know what I'm saying? Because I wouldn't worry about. I mean,
guys with hazmat suits coming in, like bag him.
Right. So that's the kind of thing I can understand where they're going from. But here with Sherry Lynn, it's amazing how these walking paper or these papers that you talk about, how do you feel about how New York's going on right now?
Yeah.
I mean, like with Kyrie Irving, look at the situation with him.
You know, Dvorak keeps saying, it's all about the bet. He says as soon as the odds are in the right place, then he says Mayor Adams is going to drop it just in time for Kyrie to play.
Well, Kyrie just had 40 points in one half last night. So, I mean, that just lets you know how ridiculous it is a person of that level to score 40-something points in one half, and they say, nope, you can't play, though.
But especially since
for being in the locker room.
Especially since the fans are allowed to be unmasked. The whole thing is nuts. It makes no sense.
And even more, that's why I say it's ridiculous for her to sit here and say this about walking papers, and you clearly, you like literally have to have papers to move around New York, or did. I think they rescinded them, or it's kind of in a gray area right now.
The business mandates are pretty much still in place. I mean, most businesses have not dropped it. They're just like, hey, you got to prove you got it.
I wonder how she feels about that. I would love to ask her, what is the Open Society's standpoint on asking people to having freedom papers just to move about New York City? How would you feel about that?
That would be good to confront her with, wouldn't it? We should set up an interview, a podcast. We'll really play to her ego. We'll play really dumb, and then we'll just pop this shit on her. See what happens.
Because the thing is this is how you win this battle, when you put people in a paradigm where it's like they have to face the hypocrisy and the just sheer nonsense of it. Like GBG, that's why I got so popular with people, because it's like, okay, yeah. You want to protect black people? Why don't you give them guns? It's like, oh no, we can't give them guns because we're anti-gun. So I think,
I hope
how memes work.
I hope that the fax machine is working on at least T-shirts or hoodies or something with GBG on it.
Oh yes,
I mean, that's so badass. I want that real bad. AK on it, perfect.
And that's like I said, that's how you win this war, by being clever.
Mm-hmm.
By and now just let's go back to Central Park for a minute. That's why I called the dude the dog Nazi, because he was like, "Hey, put your dog on a leash." It's like, I mean, I don't know if the dog was bothering him or not. I can't speak to that. But what I'm saying is the fact that when you get into a combative situation, but trying to force something on somebody else. It's like, I mean, like, hey, you could say, hey man, put your dog on a leash and keep it moving. But it's just like this need to enforce law on somebody else. That was the weird paradigm and paradox for this situation. Because he was the one actually enforcing the code on her, you know.
Yes. That's what I said. And I've long said, certainly in the United States, we've picked up some very bad habits of always solving everything with third parties. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to call the teacher, the principal, whatever. I'm going to call the cops, you know. It's no longer possible, I guess, to go over to your neighbors and say, hey, it's 10 o'clock. You just turn it down a little bit. No, you can't do that. That discourse, people don't even know their neighbors probably. And I would say that goes all the way down to the breakdown of the family and church, etc. Fine. And now we've added this extra dimension, which is kind of, instead of a lawyer, we just throw that shit up on social media and we just let the public decide, and it's skewed, it's biased, and it's messed up. And that has kind of now become the poor man's, so to speak, a legal defense fund. Oh, yeah? Well, I'm just going to throw that on Twitter. I'm going to throw that on YouTube.
Without any context or anything
No,
else.
of course not.
Yeah.
No, of course not.
So, I mean, so that's.
And it worked well for this man, I think. He got a good one out of it.
I think he ended up like saying they took it too far with her. I mean, I forget. It slips my mind how it ended. Mm-hmm. I think they were trying to get her fired. That was one of the things which I don't understand as well. Like trying to get somebody fired.
Yeah, it's so lame. Oh, you know who tried that? Richard Marx tried to get me fired from MTV.
What did he try to get you fired for, Adam?
Do you know the story?
No, I do not know the story.
Oh, I was doing the top 20 countdown, and Richard Marx was, he was always on there. He had monstrous hits, and and this is a scripted show, so there's some jokes built in. And I came out of his clip. I said, Richard Marx and his hair at number, 14, whatever, which is, I think, certainly seeing my quaff of the day is quite okay. I can, as a hair guy, I could say that. And he got so pissed off, and he went to the executives and said, "You got to get Curry off the air." And it was messed up.
You didn't respect his third rail, Adam.
Yeah, I guess not. Way. Hey, I was a dumb news model. What can I tell you? I was just reading what I was supposed to read. Sorry. Yeah.
It's like I said, everybody is far too sensitive, especially the weird thing with me is now family calling the police on family.
Yeah.
Like that to me is
that sucks.
And then you're going to have to get bail money to bail them out so they can make it to work by Monday. It's like, then they're going to get fired and have to borrow money from you. But I digress. It's just, that's the weirdest thing is like, we're calling police on family now? Like, is that what we're doing? It's just it's the dumbest thing ever.
Well,
so speaking of money, okay.
I was just going to say, have you seen the new Cops on Fox Nation?
I have not.
Now, the old Cops, we all remember. What was it basically?
Either bait prostitutes or bait drug deals, and they would chase a guy down over, over that. That's my
right. And would you say that the majority of the perpetrators were black on Cops?
Either black or Latino.
Okay. So the new Cops, which is back,
or let me say this, or somewhere in rural America.
Right. Well, the new Cops is all that. The new Cops is all white people. It's hilarious.
Oh, welcome to the bottom.
Yes, exactly. They don't even know that they're the sequel. It's crazy. All right.
Well, speaking of money, I guess we need to thank some more producers for what they do.
Yes, and we need to remind us how much we love it.
I like brand new money. I don't want any money around me that's not. I'd almost rather have a new one than an old 20. Now, that's kind of dumb, isn't it? But there's something about new money that excites you. You like $100 bills?
Oh, yeah. I like new money, too.
Oh, most beautiful thing on earth is a $100 bill. I hadn't seen a woman as good looking as a $100 bill. There's something about a $100 bill that excites you.
Well, we love new money as well. That's not really why we're doing it, but it does help us do it. The new money we love is some Bitcoin. Newpodcastapps.com is where you can get a podcast. You can use value for value streaming. You can boost us larger amounts and support many independent podcasts and ensure that your podcasts are protected and will stay on the air, so to speak. We also love some of the new money we get in digital form from Cash App and PayPal. And we want to thank the rest of our producers. Jared Mitchell, who said, hey, oh, by the way, it's the Pooh Man. Hey, Mo, Pooh Man. Always listen.
You gotta
you know the
I gotta
Pooh Man?
say something about the Pooh Man.
Yeah, go.
You gotta see. I gotta send you the copy of this Boule phone he painted. Awesome.
He has a Boule phone that he painted? Cool.
Yeah, he painted it. Yeah, so I'll send that over to you.
Oh, is that something we can put on social media?
Yeah, we should be able to.
Yeah,
unless the Boule comes after us.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I would be careful with that. So Pooh Man says, always listening to your podcast will make an artwork. Keep up the great work. Of course, 3333. Thank you, Jared. Christopher DiBiase, I think it is, $33. Thank you. Daniel Fletcher, $30. Hope everything's good with you and your family. Everything good with you and your family, Mo?
Yes, they are. Everybody's wonderful.
Everything good here as well. Thank you for asking.
Except I'm trying to teach an 18-year-old how to drive without health insurance. So please pray for me.
Oh, my. Wait a minute. That's not been sorted out?
No.
Oh, brother.
It's still in limp. I mean, like, because they were like, well, kind of thing. So,
okay.
I think I should be able to be taken care of, but like I said, it's not official yet. I'll say that. I'm not worried about it, but it's not official.
Michael Kilgus, $25. Moe Factz with Adam Curry says, no note from Jill Woods, but $20. Appreciate that. Ned L. Ayers III, 17.77. One day I'll have more to sow. Work ain't the same. This is the beauty of the value for value system, Ned. We value this just as much as any other donation because we know where it comes from, and it's valuable to you. That's the point. That's what counts. Benjamin Sides, $15. He says, thank you, Mo. Alejandro Olcocer, which he gave me a handy pronunciation guide for. And now you're going to have to do that every single time, Alejandro, because you think I'm going to remember when I see this? A-L-C-O, well, soccer, Alcocer, so it's soccer backwards. Okay, thank you. I'll remember now. Mark Asher, money for Facts Man and Mr. Spice, $11. Johnny Hipwell, 1010. This will work for now. I'm trying to keep the subscription. It won't let me go through your link website to do a subscription. Oh, is that we have a failure on that?
He was the first one to try to use a subscription that I know of. And he had some issues, so I got to go into the website and check out what's going on over there.
Well, we can always ask, I'm skipping over one here, but we can always ask Terry, the human subscription Keller, who was there with his $4.11, as always, if he can check it out for us, because he does know a thing or two about subscriptions, even though he does these by hand.
Right.
And we also thank Brandon M. Ellsbury for his $5, and Chris Conahor, Conahor, I guess, $3.33. No note, and thank you all very much for supporting episode 78 of Moe Factz with Adam Curry. Please support the work. Please support this show. Go to mofactz.com, the donation page directly, mofundme.com.
And I want to make sure we got Terrence Lynch for $10. I want to make sure we got him. I think you said it, but I just want to verify that we did.
We did now, for sure.
Okay. Just I'd rather be safe than sorry.
No problem.
All right. So now in this last block, I want to get into the impact of these of the open society, because it sounds like we're moaning and complaining, but these things have real issues, and all of these have been local to me. These news stories that I have.
Okay. So
it's kind of like we're going to go through some news clips and just listen to the amount of craziness and crime that's going on since these DAs have taken office in their district. So I guess we can go ahead and get into 28 homeless men.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to News 4 Today. I'm Un Yang.
And I'm Jumi Olabanji. Thanks for waking up with us on this Tuesday, March 15th. We will get to that breaking news right now here at 6 o'clock. D.C. police say they have a suspect in custody in connection to the attacks on men experiencing homelessness in D.C. and in New York City.
The man was arrested just a few hours ago around 3 o'clock this morning on Pennsylvania Avenue in Southeast D.C.
News 4's Justin Finch live at D.C. Police headquarters with the latest on these breaking details. Justin.
Jumi, good morning. That's right. That word now coming in from D.C. Police just moments ago that a man is now in custody in connection to this case. Those 5 men experiencing homelessness who were all shot between D.C. and New York City, 2 of which have died. That man is now in police custody, now under arrest. This all comes after the recent release of those new suspect images. As you mentioned, he was located overnight on the 2700 block of Pennsylvania Avenue in Southeast, and we are told this man fits the description of the face you were seeing on those images. Mayor Bowser and D.C. Police Chief Robert Conti calling this man depraved, linking him to the 5 shootings of men experiencing homelessness, 2 of which have died. In D.C., homeless outreach teams were going out to get word to encampments, warning of this danger and offering shelter. Chief Conti had been saying that tips have been coming in over the past few days as this case was being pursued. And speaking Monday, Mayor Bowser encouraged those who are unhoused to seek shelter for their safety, given that threat on the streets.
Yeah, we got that story here too.
seek shelter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, like,
seek shelter.
They're homeless.
Seek shelter, homeless people.
Like, that's their solution. Right. That's their solution. Like, it's a crazy killer on the loose. Seek shelter.
Yeah.
I think if they had shelter, they were, that would be an option for them. But this is how tone deaf these people are. And I'm noticing something because I did a little research on this guy. He was in and out of mental institutions.
Mm-hmm.
So are they also letting mental patients out? Because I have to ask this question because you remember with the Kyle Rittenhouse case, one of the guys that he shot was fresh out of an institution. Is this also being included in mental institutions as well as prisons and jails?
I believe this goes back to the Reagan era. Excuse me. When there was a call, the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
Yes.
So that was a state-run mental facility, and there were a lot of people in there, and predominantly the leftist politicians and activists kept saying, we need to let these people go. This is horrible. These institutions are horrible. That movie was no coincidence. And then Reagan said, you know what? We're shutting all of them. And since then, we really haven't had that type of mental care, certainly not government provided, since, as far as I know. So I'm surprised they even had a place to send people to in the first place.
And like I said, the other thing was let me be clear too, he was in and out of jail as well because he had two other assaults of women prior to this in the same year.
Yeah.
And they didn't arrest him. And I guess for full disclosure, he's a black appearing man.
Black appearing. Oh, that's cool.
Yes,
what is black appearing?
It's a BAM. A black appearing man.
BAM.
That's when I can't confirm your lineage.
Right.
So So he appears to be a black man, but it's not his lineage is not confirmed yet. So we can't take that one. We can't take that L just yet.
Wow.
Just verified. Moving on. Now we got to go to the shopping cart killer.
He preys on the weak. He preys on the vulnerable, and he does unspeakable things with his victim.
Fairfax County Police arresting a man they call the shopping cart killer, 35-year-old Anthony Robinson, accused of murdering at least 4 women.
Back in November, police in Harrisonburg found 2 bodies in a vacant lot. Robinson was later arrested for that, and police in the district started investigating him in connection to the death of Cheyenne Brown. She went missing on September 30th. Fairfax County Police believe they found her body near a shopping cart in Alexandria in the very same container where Brown's remains were found. Police say another person's remains were there. That person has not yet been identified.
Investigators believe Robinson met his victims on dating sites, took them to motels, then used a shopping cart to dispose of their remains in various locations. They think there may be more victims out there. Police say Robinson is transient. He had addresses in New York, Prince George's County, and D.C. He also had many jobs and no criminal history.
Okay, this is a fan favorite. Growing up in the Netherlands, and to this day, I would say, really the nutty crimes, the like eating the victims and stuff like that, Zodiac killer, all this stuff was really, it's only in America. It's not true probably, but really this type of media murder is so stereotypical American.
I'm glad you said that because the unstereotypical thing about this is both of these are BAMs. Another black appearing man that's a serial killer, which and also has a history of being in it. He didn't have a criminal history, but he has a history with mental illness, which that's why I raised the question in the first place.
Right.
Now we're saying, okay, that's DC, which guy went back and forth to New York. Now we have this next guy in Fairfax, Virginia, which is right outside of DC. They're going back and forth to New York. What's going on? Like, seriously.
Yeah, they're letting crazy people just run around.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the whole, like.
There was one in New York, too. Did you catch the one in the Museum of Modern Art?
No, is that the one that jumped over the?
Yeah, but this guy was a long-term. He had a membership card. He would go very regularly, and then there were a couple of things that happened, and they revoked his membership card, and he came in again, and they said, "No, well, you can't come in because of these other, this ruckus you caused." And then he jumped up and just stabbed the women. But that was
did he have his vaccination card? I have to ask.
I don't know.
Is that the reason why? No, I have to ask. I mean, these are legitimate questions that we have to ask when they're kind of vague with the reason. It's like,
it's a great question. I have no idea. I wonder if I can look at. I can see if vaccination is required for Museum of Modern Art.
Yeah, because I mean, I forewarned people with this going postal thing.
Wow. We've talked about that. And going postal. Yep. It's kind of time for that to come back, I guess.
It's very concerning when you see, like I said, D.C., right here, Fairfax, Virginia. So I'm from the DMV. They call it the DMV, right? D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. So I have D
Mo,
and I have V, yes.
COVID-19 vaccination and face masks are required for all visitors of the Museum of Modern Art.
I will be interested in what his status is and why he was just so peaceful all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden he was revoked.
Mm-hmm.
Did he have his freedom papers or not? I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's a very valid question.
All right, so now we can't leave the M out. We got to go over to Maryland, and this is Marilyn Mosby. She puts the M in Maryland.
And right in step with Timus, here's Marilyn Mosby. She's the current Baltimore City State's attorney and one of the rogue prosecutors these Soros-type groups support.
Our mission as prosecutors is justice over convictions. Justice is not black and white. It may mean a tough sentence in one case. It may mean drug rehabilitation in another case. It may mean diverting somebody out of the system altogether. But this is what progressive prosecution looks like. Pushing back against the overcriminalization of poor black and brown people, mass incarceration, and we're doing this in stages, right? If you look up the word progressive, that's in essence what it is.
And here's Mosby again attacking U.S. District Attorney Greg Scott after he points out chilling statistics that cities with rogue prosecutors tend to have higher levels of violent crime.
You're not from Baltimore, so I would advise you to please, before you make any mention of what happens in my city, to know what you're talking about.
Now, while these statements make for good sound bites and serve as rallying cries for their cause, the results of their policies are not producing the justice they are seeking. In fact, it's hurting the most vulnerable people in our society, the same people they claim they're helping the most.
I've two things here. One, very important what you say there. Progressive, what it means to be progressive in steps. We do it by little steps. That's very key what you said there. I had a question. Is there a fan base for this type of progressive prosecution amongst the BAMs of the world?
No, because we're not any different than any other set of Americans that we want to live in safe neighborhoods. So it's, yeah, I mean, we could think things could be, and I don't want to speak for
I mean, are there literally, is there any black person who hears this and goes, "Oh yeah, that's great. We'll finally get our righteousness, our deal, or whatever." Is the programming working?
They hear that if you talk about, once again, reform police, defund police, in their mind, they don't look at it as, okay, they're the ones that actually keep the majority of criminals at bay. Right, they look at the one or two cases or whatever's highlighted in the media at the time through the videos that go back to the Central Park thing.
Right,
they're like, okay, we defunding the police is going to stop that, so I'm all for it. Or yeah, that person shouldn't have been locked up. But they don't understand it's an overall system where it's very
Right, but when you get Al Sharpton or any other of the pastors and reverends coming out and saying, no justice, no peace. I mean, all of this stuff that all plays into it. It's like, yeah, right. We should have different justice. I mean, people want it. It's almost the same as people saying, yeah, I give up on. I can't. This is everything's too stressful. Give me universal basic income.
And this is where they work in the extremes at, because it's stop and frisk or no cops. It's like, isn't there something in between? Isn't there something in between that? No. All we have is we're all out of sensible policing. All we have is
making it binary again. That's back to the binary,
which that forces the community, quote unquote, to demand for stricter policing. And then they'll say, oh, we're just delivering what the people wanted. Yeah. But it's like where the options you gave the people are trash. So the reason why I bring Mosley into it is because she's the one that implemented Amsterdam in Baltimore. And for people that don't know, Amsterdam, which is the drug-free zones, not prosecuting drug offenses. Yeah, we saw that in The Wire, right? Remember, you've been inducted into the Wire.
There's so many people. If you remind them, just another quick story. I was interviewed by Peter McCormick of the What Bitcoin Did podcast. Very influential. He's got like 500,000 followers on Twitter, and I brought up drill rap, and both he and his crew went, "Oh yeah, of course, it's huge in the UK." Which it is. And I went into my pitch about how disgusting it is that, this is basically being algoized by YouTube. The labels pick it up. They give them their own sub label. And what was interesting, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Although they were like, oh yeah, that's horrible. I could see that they really love this music, that they hadn't really considered, hey, this is real. These kids are really killing each other. And I could see that they had to think about it for a second.
Just like everybody loves the X Games.
Yeah.
But they don't see all the broken arms, legs, knocked out teeth, cracked skulls, and concussions and everything that goes along with it. Just like people love football. Yeah. But they don't, it's when you're at the consumer level, it's just like, okay, it's for entertainment, but they don't understand the cost that comes along with it.
Well, so awareness is good. I guess we're helping people with that as well.
Yeah, at least you're aware of what goes on with it. Yeah. I mean, now you're saying be informed of how you consume it. Yeah. So going back to Mosley, is that she brought us Amsterdam, right? Only right that you have what's happening in clip number 31.
And look, fire is really far from the only concern in vacant buildings. Our Paul Gessler, he has been digging into other issues as well all week long. And Paul, quite a lengthy list for a city that has about 15,000 vacant homes.
Right, yeah, and we are a block away from Abijoy on South Calhoun Street. And you'll notice this house right here behind me caught fire just on Saturday, 2 days before that fatal fire on Stricker Street. It also a vacant building, but firefighters tell us really the only difference was the floors didn't cave in on this one. In theory, vacant homes should be boarded and secure, but we have found that's not always the case, leading to other dangers that in and around vacant buildings. 15,000.
It's sad, actually.
That's how many current vacant buildings the city tracks.
You take the vakes away, you take the crime value down, basically.
The Stricker Street property had been vacant since 2010, the latest of a long line of fires at vacant buildings, but that's just the start.
Nobody knows somebody is there until they enter the house or something.
Just around the corner from City Fire Station 8 here in West Baltimore, this entire block of North Gilmore Street is scheduled for demolition. Still, many of the homes are not secure. You can actually look directly into many of these vacant buildings. These homes are really open to the elements and open to people, and in some cases, the boards have been pried right off.
You can easily just walk inside of here and just be upstairs chilling or something.
At this home, a water leak has caused icicles to form out front and on the basement bed. You can see from the exposed window.
Now, this report was from when?
A couple months ago.
And The Wire season 1 aired when?
2001, I believe.
I rest my case.
But hold on, there's more. Because you remember, just to clue people in, they were putting dead bodies and hiding them in the vacants.
Yeah.
And in The Wire. And Marlo, the character that was doing sanctioning all the killings, he was considered basically a serial killer, but nobody cared until the media used it as they were killing homeless people.
Right.
You remember? Like, so now we have the homeless.
Now we got a problem.
Now we have the homeless men. It's like, people, that's a feel good story. Now we're going to have attention brought to it.
Yeah.
So this is once again, like, you want to talk about Simpsons prophecy, The Wire, man. We really got to start looking at that.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Who wrote that? Who wrote that? Do you know?
I'm not sure who wrote The Wire. I'm embarrassed to say because it's one of my favorite television shows. But while you're looking that up, let's go ahead and get into the final piece about the vacants.
In 2020, a body was found inside a vacant property here on Argyle Avenue in West Baltimore. And city police tell me that they don't track every body found, but they do when it results in homicide investigations. And dating back 5+ years, we've had 22 homicides in or on vacant properties. On property or near, the city has long pointed to the sheer presence of vacant buildings as a cause for crime.
If you look at the map of where the murders are, the most violent crime is in the areas with most vacants.
Last summer they had guys going around setting them on purpose.
In 2019, investigators determined dozens of fires were intentionally set inside Baltimore vacant buildings. Police arrested 2 men. Court records show 1 was convicted. But fires in vacant buildings remain an issue, especially in West Baltimore.
Will we love for the city to knock down every vacant house in the city so this never happens again? Absolutely. Until then, we will continue to do our job to protect the citizens of Baltimore.
Back live now to the firefighter union president's point. Baltimore is certainly not the only city in this country to deal with the vacant building issue. Detroit, for instance, has its own demolition department, and in the last 7 years, they've demolished about 20,000 vacant buildings. To put that in perspective, Baltimore City only has a target of about 500 annually. For now, reporting live in Southwest Baltimore, I'm Paul Gessler for CBS News Baltimore.
So who do we have on the scene in Baltimore, Mo, who can be the cultural icon to shepherd in the new neighborhood we're going to build there eventually?
I don't think there is one yet. I don't think there is one. But it just baffles me how you have this many vacants, this many homeless people, and nobody, these smart foundations.
Let me see. Can I put 1 and 1 together here? Will something work?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, seriously, vacant buildings, homeless people. You know, it's like, it's so obvious.
Right. But what they want to do is burn them down and then, gentrify.
Yeah. I know.
But you got to get rid of the homeless people and the vacants.
Yeah. Well,
so
that's a 2 for 1. It's a 2 for 1. It's perfect.
I wish I had a better way of wrapping the show, but
by the way, the Wire was written by David Simon.
Okay.
Interestingly, I think he's a Jew, but he worked just because in context of the show. He worked at the Baltimore Sun City desk for 12 years from 1982 to 95 and wrote Homicide: A Year on the Killing Streets. And so I'd say a lot of this is, no wonder it's based on some factual stuff. The guy lived it. He was there.
Right. And then they just highlighted a lot of the things that's going on now. I mean, it's like he had their playbook in a way, or he was in the know of how they was going to roll out these things. And now like they said, we're seeing it in Detroit, the same thing, the vacants, the homeless people all over across the United States. And they have to get rid of these people one way or another. And I think between fentanyl, ring policing.
I'm sorry, ring policing?
That's how I look at it. It's going to be, you can't be outside the zone.
Oh, right.
This is the homeless zone. You know what I'm saying? Stay over here.
Sectors. Let's call it sectors. That's more sci-fi. Sector. Yeah.
Sector policing.
Yeah. Ooh.
I think that's going to be the way they're going to do it. And when you step outside of that, it's going to be like, they're going to be herding them back into their zones. And then they'll take back the real estate. Like I said, I wish I had a better way, a more upbeat way to wrap the show. But the only thing I can say to people is seek first to understand.
Yep.
And then, at least start talking about the solutions.
And also continue to work on parallel networks of all kinds. Make sure that you're connecting with people. I mean, we really need I think that was on my list, wasn't it? I'm going to set up Mofactz.social. Yeah, we need our own Mastodon server now for sure. Oh, I'm writing this down, Mo, because we need to start connecting people a little bit. I mean, you and I have both seen some of the emails that have been coming in. You know, our conversations are having impact. It's people are impacting others. I'm really proud of the work you're doing, Mo. This is fantastic.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Adam. And as I always say, pay attention to everything and the truth will reveal itself.
And we will reveal ourselves in 14 days for another standard Moe Factz with Adam Curry, 79. But, of course, make sure you check out the Lost Tapes on Wednesday and keep your eye on the socials for everything Mo is up to. We'll talk to you next time. Remember us at mofundme.com. See you next time, everybody.
You touch and go, but don't you know you can't hide? No, no, baby. When you give it up, it's only enough to get me by. You're playing a game, it's so plain. You want me to win. I'm willing to play whatever you say, if love is the end. Playing your game, baby.